Hello and welcome to the 7 Minutes Podcast. This is Season 5, first episode. I am host number 1, Zach, and I am surrounded on all sides by my co-host.
And your cats.
And my cats. I won't name the cats, but I will name the co-hosts. From left to right, Dom, Robert, and Angie.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Season 5, guys.
Wow.
Today's topic is going to be GDC and the state of the industry, as a couple of our panel members attended GDC. But first, as usual, we're going to talk about what we have been playing since the last time we recorded. Dom, why don't you kick us off?
Sure. Let me just get my list out. Hold on one second. Okay. So, since the last time we podcasted, I did beat a couple games. Starting with Dynasty Warriors Origins. So Dynasty Warriors Origins is the first entry that I've played in the Dynasty Warriors series. And, I have to say it was really good. It's been a while since I actually played it. It was like a couple months ago at this point, or a little over a month ago. I really liked it. The story was cool, but the best part obviously was the combat. From my understanding, they took a different formula this time around. Instead of playing as, a bunch of different characters, you just have one character, 8 to 10 different weapons that you could choose from. And I found that the balance was great. Every weapon, had its own set of moves, stats. They had, the heavy ones that were slow but effective. And I'm trying to think now the names of all the weapons. But anyways.
Do you remember what you liked among the weapons?
Yeah. I want to say my favorite was I think Twin Pikes was the name. It's like it's dual wielding. It's pretty quick, but God, they were powerful.
Yeah.
It was good for group control because it had like this sweeping attack. It also had this attack that you could sprint while using it, sort of like, go left and right and just knock everybody out.
Yeah.
Beyond that, the game start to finish had me hooked. The story was good enough for me. It kept me interested. I wasn't like looking to skip no cutscenes or anything like that. I thought the music was actually really good in this game. I love music like that. The piano, kind of slow. It kind of reminded me of a little bit of. I recently played Kinutsugame, and it was kind of like that peaceful piano music. And of course, it got more intense during the actual battles. As you know, you're playing to like heavy metal. You lose track of who you're talking to at any point in the game because there's a million different characters.
Yeah, the names are a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
But I think that's just like the lore there, right? That's kind of known with the Three Kingdoms and all that. What else can I say about that game? It ran perfectly. I never experienced any hiccups in frames. Like, it was just so smooth, which added to my experience. It was excellent. I completed the main story with one of the clans or whatever, and I had all intentions of going back and doing the alternative endings and playing as different characters. But as we all know, there's just too many games to play.
You did Liu Bei's?
I did Liu Bei's, yeah. Just his basic story. It was great. I'm sure other people on this panel will talk more about that. But yeah, overall, excellent game. After that, I played through Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, which was a shadow drop off of an Xbox showcase. And I got to say, it's the first Ninja Gaiden game I actually played through all the way. Mm-hmm. So I'm not like this OG vet, So the game to me was excellent. I had a great time. And even though it's very action-oriented and that's the main thing compared to like Dynasty Warriors, it's way more challenging. I'd say that, Dynasty Warriors has way more combos. I mean, you have 8 different weapons. Ninja Gaiden also, you have 8 to 10 weapons too that you can cycle through, but not as many combinations for each weapon. Like the main attack, the strongest attack is like this drop where you throw them up in the air and you slam them down, and every weapon could do the same thing. So other than that, I think my problem is that the combat's deeper than I think, because I would stay with one weapon, maybe go to the next one and just try to get through the level. I didn't explore too much, about these crazy combos, when to counterattack and stuff like that. I just got through the game.
Yeah.
I know that there were lots of complaints that the game was too easy. compared to the OG version and even the Sigma versions.
I know that relative to the original version, the Sigma version reduced the enemy counts, and I think that was partly for PlayStation 3 performance reasons. But I think also they did just kind of want to do like a balance patch and change how some of the game worked. I haven't played any version of Ninja Gaiden 2, but it has definitely there's like a diehard fan community that thinks the original version with like the more aggressive combinations of enemy spawns.
Yeah, I read that too.
Is preferred, but yeah.
Yeah. So like again, I'm not like an OG. I'm not going to compare it to anything because I just like the game and it looked amazing. My understanding is they use this lighting technology in it that just made it look crazy. I think it's Lumen or something like that. But anyways, the game looked great, it played great. Yeah, and I want to definitely go play that some more. Played through that, and then the last 2 games I completed since were both Ender Lilies and Ender Magnolia. They're like Metroidvania style,
You had recommended Ender Lilies a long time ago, I want to say, but you went back to it.
Yeah, I went back to it and actually got the platinum. I did the 3 different endings, and then the main reason why I even went back to it was because this year Ender Magnolia came out, and so I was like, well, I may as well play the first one all the way through before I dive into that one. And Ender Magnolia was amazing. I really enjoyed it. The music in both games is great. I think Magnolia has a slight edge. And everything Ender Lilies did, Magnolia improved upon. Combat-wise, even maybe story-wise, it was like level to me. But yeah, it was...
So you have previously recommended to me, I think on this podcast, that I try Ender Lilies. Would you, now having played both, recommend that I skip straight to Ender Magnolia?
Yeah, you can totally do that. I would say they're good enough games that you should just go back and play with Lilies.
Yeah.
But just because of... it just released and it improved on a lot, with the partner system, what abilities they can actually do for you as you summon them improved. And it's more of a variety now. And I think the bosses in Magnolia are better too, overall. So yeah, definitely. Anybody here, if you want to get into either of them, you can start with Lilies or Magnolia.
I'd be happy to play both games.
Yeah. I would. Seriously, Lilies was so good. It came out several years ago. But yeah, you got to get to it, Zach, and everybody.
Robert, I appreciate it, but you might remember just talking about there being too many games to stay on top of all of them. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, give it a shot. Again, the music was excellent. And like I said in the first game, I'm a sucker for like the piano music and all that. So those are the ones I completed. I'll just quickly talk about what I'm playing currently. One is Lies of P. Game came out in 2023. I'm obsessed over it. I'm almost done, I believe. I've become a Souls-like fan, but I just don't tend to beat them. I put in like 30, 40 hours a lot of the time, and then I just go on to the next thing.
I have that problem too. It's mainly though, like, I think it's a skill issue for me. I'll reach a point where it's like the enemies start to get really crazy, and then I'm just not. I'm like, I think I've reached my limit here.
Like even like Elden Ring, I got so far, and I wasn't having trouble with any bosses really, because I learned to spam magic, and I think I had like a blood sword. I can't remember, but I just stopped playing it. You know what I mean? I had like 50 something hours in Elden Ring, and I just stopped. But,
that one in particular, among the Souls-likes, I think it feels a little endless.
Yeah, it's like I've done this like 6 other times already, or 7 other times.
Like here's a variation on a catacomb I have a sense that I've already kind of seen before.
Right. Right. I think it hits harder for someone who wants to do everything in the game.
Yeah.
If you see something, you go off the beaten track and. But anyways, I'm finishing Lies of P, and again, part of the reason I even started playing it again is because they announced the DLC coming out this summer, so I wanted to knock that out. But it's turning out to be one of my favorites. The only thing I'll say is that a big draw to Lies of P for many people is the customizable weapons. You can take a blade and take a handle from any weapons and make any combination you want. And I found that I'm mainly just using a straight up greatsword that I got like a special weapon from one of the bosses, and that's getting me through the bulk of the game.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think for a lot of FromSoft games, that's a lot of people is they just find the thing they like and stick with it. I've never been, because I know all these games have like a ton of consumables and special ammo and stuff like that, And there's a whole player type that will just get really into using them. And I've just always been like, give me a hammer or a great sword, and
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then lastly, me and my brother are playing through Split Fiction, which is by the same people who made It Takes Two and A Way Out. I think brothers. And we're having a great time. It's a lot more challenging than It Takes Two. More platforming. Yeah. That game's excellent. Everybody should play that game.
Angie, do you have any interest in co-oping our way through Split Fiction or
I haven't.
It Takes Two?
I've heard of It Takes Two, but I don't know much about it. But I haven't heard of Split Fiction.
This company makes like exclusively co-op only games, like 2-person co-op games, and it's like puzzle platforming. But It Takes Two, and that's how many of us there are.
I will look into it. I will not say definitively yes or no.
The story's pretty good, but and they always surprise you with like a new gameplay element that doesn't make it boring. Every level's like something new.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's me.
Robert, what have you been playing?
Well, I started, Princess Peach Showtime, I think is what it's called. So for Mario Day, they did a bunch of sales. But I like that for Mario Day, they do physical sales, not just digital. So I picked up a copy of Peach. It was only $40 at Target. I don't share Angela's disdain for it, at least not so far. I don't think Princess Peach is too obnoxious in how she's portrayed. I do think it's lame that they seem to have changed the voice actress. Let's just face it, Peach is a dainty girly girl. And if you can't handle that, go play something else. Like, seriously, we don't need this fake, she's tough, she's this, she's that. Peach isn't really tough. She's not, like a go-getter type in that sense. That's not to say she's not competent, but that part is a little lame. But in terms of the gameplay, I've been enjoying it. It's set up as a stage production, so she's going into just different performances is what it's supposed to be. So that's how you end up with all the different Peaches that you see in the marketing, where she's like a ninja, and she's a sword fighter, and she's a chef, and on and on. All that has been really fun. And I think that visually it's a really pretty looking game for Switch.
It's interesting. I'm surprised I didn't think this before, that this is like a recurring motif throughout the Mario series. Like the Paper Mario games definitely have like a stage play theme for the battles, and Mario 3 is framed that way too. Mm-hmm. Is that it? Like the two of those plus...
Isn't it World?
Does World also have that?
World doesn't have the stage look. No, you're thinking of 3, where the red curtain, that's 3, yeah. But yeah, that is definitely a persistent thing for Nintendo. But yeah, I think visually Peach is really nice. It is on the easy side in terms of gameplay, but where I'm frustrated is that it's... So like, Kirby's also easy in terms of gameplay. But Kirby will sprinkle in hidden collectibles that you have to get that make the stages a little more challenging for those who want it. And so Peach has a similar thing with these like sparkly bits that you're supposed to pick up. But the game expects you to get them in one straight shot. And some of these stages are kind of long, or they have cutscenes that you can't skip. And so I'm doing the second Sword Fighter stage, and I'm irritated because I keep missing some of these bits. And I'm like, so unless I want to replay the whole stage again after I beat it the first time, I have to go through and get it in one shot. So I keep restarting, and I just feel like that could have been handled differently, like maybe a checkpoint system or any periods of cutscene, whether it's in-game or if it's an FMV, doesn't matter. You should be able to just skip it. That way you can go through.
I agree with what you're saying, and that sounds frustrating, but I have to ask, have you considered just not getting these collectibles?
It'd be too easy otherwise. I like the challenge of it. So it's like, if I skip it, then I'd just be breezing through, and then you get, I'm assuming you'll probably get something for getting them all, but it's a Nintendo game, so you never know. You'll get a different opening screen if you collect all of them.
A shiny save file.
I am enjoying also the different dresses that you can get for Peach, too. She has like a ninja dress. My favorite so far has been the gradient dress, where it's like kind of white on top, and then it fades into pink at the bottom.
My favorite was the Chinese one with the dragon on it, and it's like an orange, like a fiery red-orange color. That one was really neat, but you don't get that till the end.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's pretty neat. So Peach has been good. In terms of what else I have been playing, I have finally been going into some of the post-game content for Super Mario RPG, and I'm talking about the Switch version. I forgot how pretty that game is. I obviously have a soft spot for the original Mario RPG. That game also has really great visuals, but the reinterpretation of them on the Switch, very detailed and great lighting, and it's just like you just want to stare at the screen. But going in and doing these extra fights has been pretty fun. They haven't been super hard. There were a couple that were... The most challenging one so far has been Booster, which is just this ridiculous sequence where he's working on a train and the Sniffets are surrounding him. And if they encourage him to hurry up, he can focus, finish the train, and then he attacks you. And it does like 9,999 damage, no matter what. Mm-hmm. And even if you have an item that prevents instant death, it won't stop you from dying. So you have to strategize to attack him, the Sniffets. No, I'm sorry. You attack him so that he isn't building, and then you try to focus on the Sniffets and get rid of all of them. Once you've gotten rid of the Sniffets, then you can beat him. But man, that took quite a few tries for me. So that was just frustrating.
You still picking away at this?
I am. I'm not completely done yet, but it's on the list. And then, I think, what else have I been plugging away at? I haven't finished... There's 2 games I haven't finished, so once I'm done with Mario RPG, they're kind of next on the docket, but I haven't beaten the Thousand Year Door remake just yet, and I also haven't beaten Mario and Luigi. I'm probably going to do Paper Mario next because that one I'm way deeper into. Mario and Luigi, I'm like barely just kind of starting. And then I think the last thing I've been focusing on is I've had an itch to play Wind Waker, but I didn't want to play the Wii U version. I mean, for one thing, my Wii U, the disc reader is dead anyway, but I wanted to play the original because they're both great, but the remake has this like advanced lighting and stuff going on. It's very beautiful, but to me it diminishes the cartoon aspect of the original. Like the original is supposed to look like a cartoon, and cartoons are flat.
I'm not sure I've ever met anyone who prefers the look of the Wii U version.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, it is pretty, but
it is.
It's astounding to me because I am playing it on my Wii. So if people don't remember, the first Wiis were backwards compatible all the way up to a certain point when they stopped including it. So I'm playing on my backwards compatible Wii using component cables hooked into the Wii. So that bumps it to 720p. So it's not HD, but it is much crisper. That HD or that 720 extends to GameCube games, and if they support the ProRes, it'll actually activate it when you're playing those games. Now, Wind Waker doesn't have ProRes; it doesn't go widescreen, but it is crisper. So it's super crisp on my screen, and it's in the original TV aspect ratio. But I'm just astounded. If you ignored the fact that it's not widescreen, it looks so competently designed. Like it's as good as anything made today. Like the level of detail, the beauty of the visuals is astounding. Just that look that they went for like 20. I think it's over 20 years at this point. I think Wind Waker's like 01 or 02 or something. And that game looks as good as anything made today. It's just such an incredible feat. But gameplay-wise, too, this is back when I was still more invested in like story when I was playing a Zelda game. And I was forgetting certain things. Even though I played the Wii U version, for some reason, it feels like much longer since I've played Wind Waker. I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that this is tied to Ocarina of Time. And like trying to piece together, I'm like sitting there thinking, how did we get from point A to point B? Because I'm like, okay, so I know it's connected. Why is Ganon in there? And then I'm remembering how time is frozen below the waves and all those different things. It's just very cool from that standpoint. I don't have that feeling as much anymore when I play Zelda games. Because like Skyward, yeah, that was kind of interesting too. Because it's like the origin of everything. But by the time you get to Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, it's like they do have interesting stories, but I swear, I think it peaked with Wind Waker. Like, I think Wind Waker and Twilight to an extent were just like the epitome of like incredible storytelling in the Zelda series. The combat's really fun. It's really visceral the way Link will swing around enemies when he does like his parry counterattack. And then the travel. So now the travel is controversial. I know a lot of people hate it, and it was so hated that there's the quick sail in the remake. But the first time I had to travel after leaving Windfall, set up the sail and just go. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, oh yeah, like, this really does take a minute to get to the next island. Like, you actually have to truly sit, and you're traveling. So I thought that was just an interesting choice. I'll see how much I am fond of it by the time I'm done. But right now, at least, I'm not minding it. I'm just thinking that it's cool, that it feels like you're really out on the ocean and traveling. So Wind Waker's been a very pleasant retread. So that's me.
Yeah. Still my favorite of the Link to the Past style Zelda games. Angie.
I also have been playing Dynasty Warriors, or I was playing Dynasty Warriors. It's like, I mean, I think Zach's definitely going to have the most to say about it because he beat it. But like Dom, this is like the first Dynasty Warriors game, actual Dynasty Warriors game I've played. I've mentioned that I played Hyrule Warriors, both of them. So like I was at least completely like, I understood the mechanics, I understood how to play, and nothing about it was confusing. And I really love that, like the waves, like hundreds of enemies that come in at a time, thousands actually. You can rack up, thousands of KOs per match, and you get rewarded for it, which is nice. But yeah, I mean, it's super fun. The story's actually really interesting. I wasn't expecting the map and the way that you're like moving around, and you have the freedom to go from place to place. You can backtrack all over the map. There's a fast travel system, which is actually really nice because as the map gets bigger, you're gonna need that. The weapons, though, I have not gotten very adventurous with them. I haven't really liked any of the other fighting styles more than the sword. And the sword is what you start with. Some of them feel better than others. Some of them feel really good, but just none of them felt to me as good as the sword. So I stuck with that. It is kind of cool, though, how even if you don't dabble in any of the other play styles at all, you're like leveling up your competency, or it's like, you know what I mean?
You get experience in the weapon you use, but you get some spillover experience in all the other weapons regardless. And that's important because your weapon levels is basically your character level. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, it's... Go ahead, Dom.
I was going to say, to your point about exploring other ones, I think the game does a really good job with the side missions, where it'll be like, okay, you get some bonus points if you get 500 kills using the lance.
Yes.
So I think that helps with that, because it got me to use the twin pikes for the first time, and like even the lance that I just said, that counter attack was super fun and so different from all the other weapons.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree, Dom. Those side missions that you get from all the other characters. What I have not done yet, I haven't yet reached the point where I need to make a decision, like which faction I want to be part of.
Got it.
I'm like, I think just shy of that.
Did you take down Dong Zhuo?
Remind me which one he is again?
He's the fat tyrant.
The big fat evil guy?
Yeah.
I swear I think I just did that. I think that's the last thing I did.
Yeah.
So yeah, because like I'm sort of being courted now. Like now there are like a bunch of people that are trying to hang out with me, and like I've had some cutscenes where they're like, "Oh hey, you happen to be here at this restaurant. Let's have a meal together." And
the cutscenes are kind of sus too. Like I swear,
everybody wants to bang you. Yeah.
My wife walked in at the most. I'm like, she's like, what the fuck are you playing? I'm like, don't worry, nothing's gonna happen. I'm like, yeah, come to my place. Yeah, this is wonderful. You're great. And it's like, whoa.
It's not even like some coquettish maiden, right? It's like 7 foot tall Guan Yu. Like, I want to stare in your eyes all night long. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll admit I also was a little like, what's going on here?
Your character just kind of smiles.
Yeah. the same stoic
Yeah, I get
look.
this a lot.
Yeah.
I get this a lot.
I mean, it's everyone, because like obviously the ladies, I haven't encountered many of them yet, like maybe like 2 or 3 women, but the girl that's in like the flowing like kind of turquoise and purple,
Tiao-chan?
yeah, the like butterfly girl, like she's instantly just like in love with you, and everybody wants to be with you.
Like the girl in the purple dress.
Yeah, the girl with, like the butterfly hairpin, and she tries to assassinate Dong Zhuo.
She crossed him, right? Like with Lubu.
Yeah.
Is that what ends up happening with her? She's like a double crosser.
She does. There's this like In the novel and in most depictions, it's like a kind of a honeypot operation where she is like betrothed to Dong Zhuo and then flirts with Lu Bu to get Lu Bu to kill Dong Zhuo.
Yeah.
It plays out a little differently in Dynasty Warriors Origins.
Lubu's the dude who like you cannot take on, right? They're just like run away from him.
Oh, I can take him on.
No, now you can. But you know what I mean? When you're
Hollow
like
Gate, or what is it called?
Hulao Gate.
Hulao Gate.
Yeah.
that whole
that's Lu Bu.
Yeah, like that whole operation where she gets kidnapped. Remember where you're like you have to flee and you have to leave her behind. And there's the whole cutscene where she tries to. Yeah, so I was a little suspicious of that because I was like, she just gets kidnapped, but it almost didn't really seem like there was a sense of urgency to go save her. So what you're saying is she double crosses you.
Not you.
No.
Oh, okay.
The big guy.
But just Dong Zhuo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But her characterization is very different in Origins than in most Three Kingdoms media. Mm-hmm. It's also very different. You remember she's Hong Jing from Wolong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does she wind up with Lu Bu in this game?
No.
Okay.
She survives past the events of Hulao Gate.
This guy is an asshole.
Lu Bu?
She does. Yeah, she deserves better.
You might remember in Wolong, their brother and sister.
More like a badass. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will admit though, they did a really good job of making you afraid of him.
Yeah.
Like
An
when he
extremely
was
good
when
job.
he
They
was
did,
coming,
yeah.
I was like, oh no, I'm taking too long.
Yep.
This
No
is
doubt.
It just
Yeah.
destroyed me.
the progression through the game. I love because they turned Lu Bu in Dynasty Warriors Origins into kind of a nemesis figure, where like the first time he turns up, you can't do anything but run away. He turns up again, and you're like sweating, and some of your allies are like, "We'll go fight Lu Bu. You go do the other objective," and you're like, "Yes, thank you."
Yeah.
And then like later, there's this another stage where I don't know if it turns up on every path, but basically Lu Bu is running around the map capturing bases at one after the other, and you have to like go around the other way to try and capture more bases than him, just trying to stay away from each other. And they like keep riffing on this, and so by the time you finally get to like the boss fight where it's 1v1, it feels like
The buildup was real.
real good. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, the music changes when he's near, and I was
Oh
like, "Oh no!" So, that.
Are you gonna pick it back up? Ange?
Yes.
You
Yeah.
are? Okay,
Yeah.
good.
I just I got distracted with, of all things, Hello Kitty Island Adventures. I know those two games I should be able to play both at one time, but Hello Kitty Island Adventures came out, and I reviewed it for Nintendo Joe, and I just got like immediately sucked into it because it's very much an Animal Crossing clone. Like I was almost a little insulted when I first booted it up because I was like, this is just Horizons, basically. Horizons Light. But then it's a bit of a slow burn at first. And then once it ramps up and you unlock a bunch of stuff, it's just like, you'll finish one little task and then you'll unlock a bunch of others. And it's like, go do this, go talk to this person. There are some things about it that could be improved, like the home customization process. So like in Animal Crossing, it's very simple. If you want to put something on a table, you just pick up the item and you put it on a table. In this one, I was like, why is everything going on the floor? Like there are tables. Why can I not put food on the table or a plant on the table? So I finally, out of frustration, because this game came out on mobile, like a few years back.
Oh.
And now,
Arcade.
yeah. So now it's on
Switch and PC. I think.
yeah. So now, and I'll get to that in a minute because there are some issues that I have with this like mobile to console porting that they've done. It's a bit lazy, but I looked up a Reddit thread and someone had encountered the same issue before. And they were like, am I just missing something? Like, how do you put stuff on tables? And someone was like, you have to keep the item that you want to put on a table in your inventory. Then you get out of like the room decorating function and you just like walk around the room. You walk up to the table and then you press A and then that'll open your inventory and then it'll show you what items can be placed on the table. And that's how you put it on the table. And I was like, why is this so
So it's like
complicated?
a learn once and then it's good.
Yeah, but
Like, you didn't come across any issues after that.
No, but it's just like it's completely unintuitive. It doesn't make sense, and it's like, why would you not just make this as simple as Animal Crossing?
Like it would have been fine in a vacuum if Animal Crossing didn't exist for that to be how they did it. But to go out of your way to make a clone of Animal Crossing and then change
the simplest, most intuitive aspects.
So besides that
Yeah.
exact feature, would you say the hand holding's pretty high in the beginning? Is that why there's a slow burn too?
So the slow burn problem is that they introduce quests that you cannot complete unless you do a million other things first. So your first quest you can't complete until you get a particular character's friendship level up to X. But it's just like with Pocket Camp, where you also have to level up your friendships. But as the level gets higher, it takes longer for them to reach the next level and the next level. And so that happens pretty quickly with the individual friends that are on the island. So it was some like double-digit level, I think, that I had to reach a particular character's friendship level in order to progress with the like opening quest of the game. And so I get, this is, I think, good segue into what my issue is with the mobile port here, is that the idea is, well, if you're playing on mobile, you're probably playing a few minutes at a time, you're commuting, or you're at home on the couch. And so you might not put hours and hours into the game like you would Animal Crossing New Horizons.
And the friendship leveling is like per day gated, right? So you can only do so much of each friend.
Yeah, so you
day.
can only give each friend 3 gifts a day. You can give them more if you use the like friendship blossoms that you get, and that'll let you give them another 3 items a day. But otherwise, like you're limited. So it took days and days and days of playing to finally get these friendship levels up to a certain point where I could then unlocked another quest that was character specific that I then had to complete to get an ability to then complete the main story quest. So there was just like too much of that like front loaded at the start of the game. And I was like, why is it like this if I'm supposed to be able to progress? But then once I got through all that bullshit, like tedium, then all of a sudden the game just like goes. Like it's just like letting a boulder roll down a hill. And then all of a sudden it's just like there's a ton of stuff to do. And there's a ton of people to see. And there's a bunch of recipes to unlock and on and on. I do feel like with the clothing is not quite as good. There are not quite as many options as in Animal Crossing. The furniture is a little limited too, but it's also just really fun.
Are there microtransactions on the Switch version?
I don't think so.
No, that game, because I played that game at Summer Games Fest. It's not made for microtransactions and stuff.
Even the mobile version?
No, it's not really mobile. Like you can play it on an iPhone, but it's designed for home play because it's an Apple Arcade title, and it even says that you should play with a controller. So like you can play it mobile, but it's really more for at home.
Because those real life time gated stuff is like Scream's mobile games.
Yeah.
Like, buy some stars and you don't have to wait 24 hours.
Yeah.
So
but see,
that's what I was asking.
the thing that's weird though is that in our time zone, Pacific time zone, Mario Kart and Animal Crossing will update every night at 11 p.m. Pacific during daylight savings time, and then I think it's 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's when this game updates. So it does have the like new day system. You know things you can go back to your friendship gift thing will go back to 0, and you get new items every day, and on like My Melody will give you something every day, but it restarts at 11 p.m. our time. So that's another weird thing from like the mobile carryover. Whereas like with New Horizons, your new day starts at like I think it's like 7 or 8 a.m. or something is when the new day starts.
Gotcha.
But the other weird thing with days, maybe you were going to mention this already, is that in like Animal Crossing, if you turn on the game at 10 a.m., it's 10 a.m. on your island, you know? So like even a day, quote unquote, starts at like 7 a.m. or whatever, but you have this sense of like a full day, like throughout an actual 24-hour day. In Hello Kitty Island Adventure, there's a much shorter day cycle that you're going through, but then there's still like this concept of a day from like the mobile game design standpoint.
Yeah,
that
so
happens
like
at 11 p.m.
Yeah, like multiple day-night cycles will cycle through in a real 24-hour period, as opposed to Animal Crossing, which follows our real 24-hour time. And that's a little weird when like the new day, quote unquote, will start, and it might be like nighttime in the game, just whatever time it happens to be when it's like 11 o'clock our time.
In real time.
Yes, in real time. So that's a little weird. It kind of throws things off a bit. But in terms of like the actual gameplay, clearly people who love Sanrio made this game. People who now there were, I can get a little slightly obsessive with some of the details because like Pochaco is Zach's nodding. Pochaco is supposed to be like really into sports. So they took that and made him like a health nut. And so, like, because each character will have items that are ranked from 1 to 3 hearts. The more hearts, the more experience they'll get, and the higher their friendship meter will raise. For Pochako, he loves like tofu and like tofu-based stuff and like veggies and stuff. And I'm like, look, I get that he's supposed to be like, I get where you're going with this, but also his like favorite ice cream is like banana ice cream. But if you give him banana ice cream, which you can make in the game, I don't even think I think you can give it to him, but it's just like a basic, like, oh, hey, thanks, 1 heart item.
So it's not lore accurate.
Yeah, there's some lore inaccuracies.
Maybe this is character development for Pochako, where he's got like a whole like whole extra freezer of banana ice cream at home, but he's like been kicking himself. He's like, I know I can be a better Pochako. This is my year. And so when you give him tofu, he's like, she has faith in me. She believes in me.
Well, that's a little frustrating, but at the same time, like, they definitely, I will not spoil. No, you know what? It's fine. I'll spoil it. The game's been out a little while. When you like go through the main story arc and you beat it, the big reveal at the end is that waiting at the top of the mountain, frozen in a block of ice, and this is absolutely, I think, supposed to be a meta reference, is Big Challenges. And Big Challenges is this weird little crocodile who he's never been on a piece of merchandise ever. He was, what year was he from, Zach? Like 70?
I'm going to guess 78.
Yeah, it's something like that. Zach will pull up the year, but they just made like a drawing of him with the words Big Challenges above his yeah, you got it.
Big Challenge.
From what year?
I didn't get that far. 1978.
Yeah, 78. So they just created this one piece of artwork with his name and then never did anything else with him again. And Sanrio fans have been like, we want big challenges. So for whatever reason...
Been organizing protests outside the HQ, demanding we want big challenges.
For whatever reason, Sunblink decided we're going to put him in this game. And he actually talks and you can actually interact with him and he'll come live on the island. So that was a very cool reference. Again, I was like, okay, people who really play and love Sanrio made this game. That's cool. But the one problem from the character standpoint is that from like a marketing perspective, Sanrio is just obsessed with like, they have a character popularity contest that they run in America and Japan. They actually run it worldwide, but every year they run it and the same fucking characters win every year. It's like Cinnamoroll, Pom Pom Purin, Kuromi, like, and maybe like My Melody. And so the characters that you can unlock to come live on the island are like heavily skewed towards those characters' lores and like their family and friends. I'm like, I do not care about My Sweet Piano. I do not care about Kuromi, whatever. Like, it's frustrating. Whereas like, you know, Kuropi has like siblings and, Botsmaru has family and like just like family and friends. And I also thought it was weird that they didn't put their sidekicks on the island, you know, like Den and Hangyo-dan's little octopus friend. I think that's Sayuri and like other characters. Anyway, it's a very good game overall. It's just that there are some issues that I had with it that made me score it kind of more on the B side. But it's been very addicting and I've put a lot of hours into it. Yeah, and then I picked up Donkey Kong Country Returns for the Switch. I just have not played it yet.
All right.
Yeah.
And then for me, last time we recorded, I was working through the New Game Plus Midnight Difficulty mode of Rise of the Ronin. First thing I did this year was finish that. Everything I said in our last episode holds true. I think the only other thing I'd add is that game has 2 target boss fights, and on Midnight mode, I got real sweaty trying to get through those.
Real sweaty.
But yeah.
Did you have to cheese, or did you just stick to your loadout or whatever?
If there was a way to cheese, I didn't find it. So, okay. The first full game I played this year was Dynasty Warriors Origins. I loved it. I would definitely say it is my front runner for Game of the Year so far. I played through. Chose the Wu path, then went back and did the Shu path, the Liu Bei path, and then the Cao Cao path. And then I went back and did the hypothetical routes for all 3. They've all got like alternate endings, which, by the way, only Cao Cao's hypothetical is any good at all. The others are like pretty unsatisfying. And then I went through and did all the Ultimate Warrior challenges. After you beat the game, every stage gets... You can play on this higher difficulty level called Ultimate Warrior more generally, but there's also... Each stage has a particular challenge that you get like a unique reward for beating that challenge on Ultimate Warrior while you're beating that stage. Some of them are fairly trivial once you've got a well-built character. Others are extremely hard. Like for example, the final boss fight against Lu Bu, the challenge is to beat him without using any healing items, including the meat buns that are around the stage. So if you accidentally collide with a meat bun, that's challenge failed.
That's annoying. That's incredible.
Wow.
That's incredibly annoying. Are there like a bunch of...
There aren't a ton of them, so like you can definitely avoid them pretty easily. You just need to have like some situational aweness.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
Some.
Yeah.
You have to have a lot of situations.
Yeah.
Like where you're at on the stage and...
When I beat Lu Bu in the Ultimate Warrior Challenge, I felt like I did not deserve that win. Dom, as you may remember, at the end of Lu Bu's boss fight, he goes into this like rage mode where he doesn't take any more damage. You have to stagger him out of his rage. And then while he's staggered is the only time you can actually do that damage to beat him. So I got him I did a lot of attempts. I ended up actually using the spear against Lu Bu. It wasn't my favorite weapon generally, but it has like Zhao Yun's special attack. I forget what it's called, but if any of you have played like the Marvel superheroes games, and you know like Iron Man can call down this like giant cannon and just like it's like Ryu's Shinku Hadouken where it just like fills up the entire screen.
Right.
It's called Dragon Flash. Zhao Yun basically does that. So like anything remotely in front of you just gets blasted. Very convenient. I was using that against Lu Bu. And I had a perk on my weapon, which was like, you have a very slight chance that when you use a super move, it doesn't use your adrenaline points or whatever it is.
Wow.
And like right at the end, I whiffed something real bad and he was about to kill me. And then I realized that the Dragon Flash that I thought I no longer had because I used it, it didn't spend. So I got to like cash it in that second time. I won like a 1 in 100 coin flip to get through that battle. But
Well, that's like when I beat Hell House in Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Down to the wire.
With that, I had that explosive that I took from what's that thing called? That big like robot thing that you fight. And you have to like, before you get to him, you can determine which of his weapons to remove from him.
Oh, from the Airbuster,
yeah,
right?
The
You're like
Airbuster.
removing the
Yeah, and he had explosives, and you can like take his explosives, and I still had one on me, and Cloud was dead. The Hell House had this teeny tiny amount of damage, and Aerith was down to like, I swear, I think it was like 5 or 10 HP, and I had it, and I just threw it like a total Hail Mary, and it killed him.
No, this is a great finish. It's like you were just like throwing out like loose change, pocket lint, like whatever you had at this guy.
And of all the loose change to have, I had an Airbuster explosive.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no, you deserve it. It's an unconventional way of winning.
It would have been a lot easier if those buns disappeared off the stage, but they stay there forever.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I keep thinking about that. That sucks.
Just don't go there.
Yeah.
No, the absolute worst challenge actually wasn't that one. It was after that stage. You might remember, Dom, like Guan Yu takes over that castle, and then Cao Cao's forces are trying to get him out of there. That's like the stage after you beat Lu Bu.
Is that with the ships on fire, or is that before?
No, that's further
before,
in the game. Yeah, this is the same stage where it's still Shapi, so it's the castle where Lu Bu was holed up, but now you're playing like from Guan Yu's point of view, or the hard one is from Cao Cao's point of view, because you need to beat Guan Yu before he retreats into the castle, and he's super amped up, like he's crazy strong, and it's just, and you're at the same time you have to worry about like your base being beaten too. That one I definitely did have to cheese. I found a way to cheese that, or some Redditor found a way to cheese that, which I'm grateful for.
Right,
but like
right.
that one was too much. But most of them were like a lot of fun.
So did you get the platinum trophy?
No, I didn't get the platinum, because in order to get the platinum, you need to get all the weapons. I got all the weapons you would want to get, but I did not have the money for buying all of like the training weapons, which are all like kind of expensive. Training weapons are like crap, but you gain more weapon experience with them, and I'd never bought them. Didn't have a reason to. It would be very easy to get the platinum for me at this point, but I would just have to spend a lot of time like grinding money in order to do that, and I didn't really feel like it. But yeah, I think it's definitely the best Warriors game, best Dynasty Warriors for sure. I hope they make DLC for it, but I don't know how much of this I said when I was playing through the demo last time we recorded, but this game, like I get an experience from this Dynasty Warriors Origins that I haven't gotten from any game before. The kind of like 3-way levels of zoom you have to focus on when you're playing. You're playing it like a character action game when you're dueling enemy officers. Mm-hmm. You're aware of your troops and enemy troops around you because you might get blindsided by some cavalry formation or something. Which is like already a level of split focus that is not common in character action games. And then on top of that, you also have to pay attention to like the broader map objectives and how things are working out on the other side of the map. And like all those things together can be really stressful, but in a really good way. Mm-hmm. I had a great time with this game. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. After that, I played Avowed, which is the third game in like the Pillars of Eternity universe, but instead of being an isometric CRPG, it's a first person, kind of oddly arcadey RPG. So like if you look at screenshots, it looks like it's going to play like Skyrim or something, but the combat in Avowed actually feels more like kind of like Doom. Like it's like very like it's fast-paced arena combat, but it happens to be like a fantasy RPG. And I think the combat remained really fun the whole time I was playing, and the exploration also, just kind of like exploring the map, wandering around and being like, oh, I wonder if there's a treasure under there or through there, or what if I explore this nook over there, and like just like leading the player to chests is like constant and really a satisfying experience in Avowed. And both those things together are really well executed throughout the game. And I think it's actually, I like Avowed. I think in order for it to be like a full-on satisfying kind of AAA experience, it needs something with a little more texture or a little slowness, because both the combat and the exploration are very like, when you're playing Avowed, you're getting dopamine hits constantly to the point where like when I would stop playing after a multi-hour session, I kind of felt like had to like come down from a little bit. Diablo, I think, is kind of the same way, where you're just kind of like getting like glowy things exploding and you're like, yes, and then you put it down and you're like, Jesus, I need to go look at grass for 20 minutes, you know? So Avowed's got that going for it, which is kind of weird for a fantasy RPG, but it's good. The lore, the other thing the game does really well is like the lore. I think Aora, which is the world that the Pillars games and Avowed take place in, is like some of the coolest lore in any game. And Avowed does interesting things to expand upon that, and it feels like a good match for it in that way. What I'm more critical of in Avowed is like the tone of the writing, which is, so Pillars of Eternity 1 is very dark. Like the inciting incident is babies have been born without souls for a while, and everyone is really freaking out about that. Pillars 2 is, I would say, significantly lighter in the tone of its writing, and Avowed is a little lighter even than that. Like it definitely works in its style. There's interesting side quests, interesting moral decisions you have to make, but it definitely feels more Technicolor, a little more friendly than the previous two Pillars games.
I will say that the times I was watching you play it, the game absolutely suffers from modern day writing, where it's supposed to be this like fantasy world, I guess high fantasy, completely not at all associated with our modern world, and it still manages to include the like MCU YA novel quips, and yeah. I'm so sick of it. I am sick of it in every game basically, but in particular where games where it has no place.
Yeah, Avowed was definitely stung by this less, but it does have, like Veilguard, there was a point in its development history where it was supposed to be a multiplayer game. Mm-hmm. And I think the quippiness might be a descendant of that, even though I think the underlying like storytelling and actual quest writing is much higher quality than that. But like, yeah, with Marius in particular, the dwarf companion in this game, he's just so fucking annoying. He's so annoying. But yeah, so like there's some things about it that are a mixed bag. I think the 8 out of 10 reviews fundamentally are pretty fair for Avowed, because like the core of the experience, especially since like almost all of what you do in that game is combat and exploration, and those are both really solid. So like I had definitely had a positive experience with the game. I would be happy to play an Avowed 2. I would probably still rather see a Pillars of Eternity 3, but I think this was good for what it was.
Did you play in third person mostly?
Yeah, I did. I went into first person very rarely. I tried it out, but yeah, third person is just what I'm more comfortable with. And I was worried going into it that it would feel like a compromise. And there is definitely like some of the animation work of like how your character moves around. You can tell that it's like a first person character translated into third person, but it all still controls very well, and in combat especially. So that was a pleasant surprise for me. I thought it was going to be like a compromise, and it didn't feel like a compromise. I guess that's about all I have to say about that. That put me in the mood to replay Pillars 1. So I started like a Path of the Damned, like the hard mode playthrough of Pillars 1. And then I realized I kind of messed up my build and I couldn't respec out of it. So I kind of put that down. I think I could like use like the cheat console to fix my build, but I didn't really feel like, if I'm playing on like the hardest difficulty, I kind of feel like I should do it honest, and I don't know. So I had mixed feelings about that. After that, I tried Indiana Jones, and I got through the Vatican segment and stopped. I feel like they do a good job with the Indiana Jones vibe of the game, and that was unfortunately about all I really got out of it. I thought the combat, not that it's a really combat focused game, but I thought the combat was kind of like boring, and I thought the stealth was boring too, and I thought the way that those interacted together was kind of boring. You just kind of like pick up an object and then clunk a guy over the head with it, and you pick up another object and clunk another guy over the head with it. What I think was most disappointing for me was the puzzles. And I can only speak for the Vatican area because that's all I played through, but to me that's like feels like it should be the most essential part of the Indiana Jones experience. Is like there's a bit of like swashbuckling action and whatever in them, but a lot of it is Indiana Jones being smart, figuring stuff out. And I felt like either Indiana Jones was saying the things out loud for me, or the actual puzzles I was being asked to do were kind of too easy. And like I think the game is capable of offering a certain kind of cinematic experience which wasn't what I wanted or wasn't enough for me. So I ended up bailing on that. I briefly tried Hi-Fi Rush and Cocoon, didn't really vibe with either. And then tried out Chants of Sennaar, which is a puzzle game, kind of like an adventure-y puzzle game, which is based around, like you play as a stranger, you show up in some unknown city, and you don't know a single word of the language spoken there. And you see like NPCs will speak in these glyphs, and you don't know what the glyphs mean, and you have to figure out through some combination of body language and trial and error what these glyphs mean, and then you start piecing together what new sentences might mean based on the things that you do already know in combination with what these people are saying. They introduce more languages later, so then you're actually trying to use what you know about one language to help you translate another. As a like linguistic exercise, it's not that in-depth or interesting, but as like this way of constructing a like an adventure puzzle game, it's actually really cool. It's a gorgeous game too. It's like stylized really neat, kind of like a lighter puzzle game. Like I don't know if anyone here played Gorogoa, for example. Like it's not a super challenging puzzle game. It's just kind of like a fun experience as you're getting these aha moments. So it's definitely not something like Baba Is You or The Witness where you're really like racking your brain trying to solve it. You're just like moving through the world and having a pretty good time. After I bailed on Pillars of Eternity, I finally went back to Wrath of the Righteous, Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous. So back on my CRPG bullshit. This is a game that I had been playing like late 2021, early 2022, and had bailed on it for a couple reasons. One was that Elden Ring came out. Another is that this game, which is like a PC game, had announced that they were going to add controller support when it came out on console, but they hadn't gotten around to it yet. And I was like, well, I'd rather play this on controller just because I like controller for everything. So maybe I can come back to it later. And then also like the build that I had picked in that game, you pick one of the cool things about Wrath of the Righteous compared to other fantasy CRPGs is like, it's this big sweeping angels versus demons story. And you gain this kind of deific power, and you can choose which kind of divine power you have. And what I had picked the first time I played was called Azada, which is basically like Fairy King, Fairy Queen kind of stuff. And I picked it because it synergized really well with the build I had chosen. I didn't like the tone of the Azada. It was kind of like tee-hee-hee, friendship and happiness and stuff, right? But I put up with it because it synergized really well with my build. And then the developers patched out the specific synergy. So I was just left with this kind of broken build with these tee-hee-hee fairies that I didn't like. So another reason to put it down. So I'm playing it again now with kind of like a Holy Avenger Angel as my divine power of choice. And I'm really liking it. You really have to do a lot in Wrath of the Righteous to customize your own experience. There's the options menu in Wrath of the Righteous is by a long shot the longest, most granular options menu I've ever seen in any game. But you really have to like tailor it to your own specific tastes. But having done that, I think it's my favorite CRPG of like what I want to call the modern era, from like Wasteland to Pillars of Eternity, like 2013, 2014 and onward. I think it's my favorite of these. And then the last thing I've been playing, I just started a few days ago, is Assassin's Creed Shadows, which I'm still pretty early in. There's like a really story heavy prologue right at the beginning. And then you're out in the open world doing kind of like standard Assassin's Creed story mission stuff. And I've gotten through the first of the areas. The story prologue was really good. I wasn't really sure how I was going to vibe with the characters. What's interesting is like, so the game starts with Yasuke and like him being introduced to Nobunaga, and it transitions pretty quickly to, because like Nobunaga does a raid on the Iga, which is like one of the two main like ninja villages in Japan. And then it switches perspective from there. Like you're raiding the Iga with Yasuke. And then it switches perspectives to Naoe, who is like a child of the Iga. And so you're like, it switches sides. And I've been with like exclusively controlling Naoe since that switch, like very early on in the prologue. So Yasuke hasn't come back into the story yet. It's just been Naoe. And I'm impressed by the game in a lot of ways. One, I was talking to Dom before we recorded, like it's gorgeous. Like the rendition of Japan in this game is amazing. And like compared to other like big budget open world games that I've seen, this is like the thickest vegetation. Like you're going through a forest in this game and you cannot see anything just because there's like it's so loaded up with trees. There's a ton that you can use for cover everywhere. And speaking of cover, actually, the stealth in this game is the best it's been in the series, I want to say. I previously would have said Unity. I love Assassin's Creed Unity. And Unity definitely has better like parkour environments than this one does. All the post-Witcher 3 Assassin's Creed games are like much more spread out, which means you have less options for like dense verticality in level design. So I still miss that from the older Assassin's Creed games. But just looking at the stealth on its own, separate from the parkour, the toolkit you have as Naoe is really impressive. And they've added things in this game that they've never had in an Assassin's Creed game before. Like you can turn out or manipulate lights to create areas of shadow to hide in. And you also have this like ability to go fully prone, like in short grass or high grass, even on rooftops, which is actually important because the guards in this game, unlike in other Assassin's Creed games, they look up. Like you're not like in like Odyssey or Valhalla. If you're on a rooftop, you can be like kind of clumsy and not really worry about it, and then jump down for the kill. In this one, you really have to worry about who's gonna be able to see you. So it's like much more in depth in terms of the stealth gameplay. I can't say I got a grip on how Yasuke plays at this point because I've barely had a chance to touch him. But like just on Naoe alone, easily the best. And how I'm going to feel about the game as a whole, I don't know. Right now, my feeling is that it's my favorite of the post-Witcher 3 RPG Assassin's Creed games. So Origins, Odyssey, Valhalla, and this one now. So far it's the best. It's much more like Odyssey would have been my favorite before this. It is significantly more like cartoony and kind of arcadey in its feel compared to this one. This one is trying to be like, there's more like white space or slow moments in between the content where it's like really trying to space things out deliberately. And so I need to see how that feels, not just at hour like 5, but hour 50 or whatever. So it's really premature to call it, but I am enjoying it so far. I think as expected, it has better stealth and worse combat than Ghost of Tsushima, which is what I expected.
Yeah. Fair.
Apparently, there's a glitch where if you're crawling, the enemies will attack you, but they're only swinging above you, and they won't swing down to hit you. So you can just keep crawling, and they'll keep attacking you and never hit you.
It's pretty funny.
That might come in handy.
Yeah.
How do you get out of that situation without dying, though?
I don't even...
Because you can't teleport when you're in combat, and as soon as you stand up, you're probably going to
Crawl to the ocean.
crawl to the ocean. Just like a sea turtle making a run for it. But yeah, that's it for what I've been playing. As for our topic of the day, it might end up being a little bit of a hodgepodge, but we're recording this just the weekend after GDC.
2 days after it ended.
2 days after it ended. Angie and Robert both attended as press because of their role on Nintendo Joe. And I know Angie specifically was taking a lot of notes about a lot of things. So I'm going to throw this over to Angie.
Okay.
Tell us about GDC.
I think I'll try and structure it by starting with Day of the Devs. So Day of the Devs happens the Sunday prior to the start of GDC. And Day of the Devs focuses on indie developers and their games. It is not held at the Moscone Center. It's held at the Midway, which is near... I mean, it's still in San Francisco, but not in the same place.
Maybe I should say that GDC stands for Game Developer Conference.
Yeah, for anyone unfamiliar.
Yeah.
Game developers.
Developers, fine.
Robert's been more than I have. This is my second year in a row going. Day of the Devs, Robert and I will usually split up. We often split up at GDC too. We'll have moments where he's doing his own thing, I'm doing my own thing. We'll see some of the same talks or we'll see different talks. So in terms of Day of the Devs, I'll just talk about a couple of things that really stood out for me. The first game that caught my eye was this game called inKonbini. Konbini is convenience store in Japanese. Konbinis are a very integral part of Japanese culture. For us, we think of convenience stores, we think of 7-Eleven, Quick Stop, etc. In Japan, convenience stores are like their own. There's a very strong culture surrounding them. They're places where everybody goes, regardless of status. The types of foods available in Japanese convenience stores are they're in some ways similar to what we get here and in many ways very different. For us, for convenience stores, you take stuff and you eat it. You can either eat it outside, you can take it with you, whatever, eat it in your car. In Japan, because you cannot eat on the streets in places like Tokyo, you have to eat it there. So it's a very interesting sort of culture, surrounding convenience stores in Japan. But this particular game focuses on a young woman. It's set in 1993. She is helping her aunt run the convenience store that her aunt is the manager of. And it starts off with the main character being very negative about the experience and just kind of wondering, like, why does my aunt even still work here? Just kind of no respect for the situation. And
How old is the protagonist?
I think she's college age because
Okay.
I think she's like visiting during the summer in between
All right.
classes. And it kind of sounds like maybe the story will change, so she kind of develops a newfound respect for it because the game centers around like the role that convenience stores have in Japanese communities and in this one in a rural community. So the general gist of the gameplay from what I experienced was I played it on a Steam Deck. It was set up on a TV, but the developer, he actually handed me a Steam Deck to play it on. Because I asked him, is this coming to Switch? He said he would like it to come to Switch, but there are no plans to bring it to Switch yet. But it very much is like, from the graphics to the gameplay, absolutely something that's a really strong fit for the console.
Is it just PC so far?
I believe that's all that it's been confirmed for so far. But playing it was really beautiful. I mean, like a kind of cel-shaded art style. And so you start off, the character, she's in the back room. She's working the night shift. She works like the overnight shift. There are notes that the like day shift workers will leave that you should pay attention to, but your role is to make sure that the store is stocked and not just and like I noticed this not just restocking the parts of the shelves that are empty, but making sure that like things that are misplaced go back where they're supposed to be, that things that are turned around are turned facing the right way. It actually kind of forces you to do a better job than just kind of like a lazy rudimentary restocking of shelves, because the first customer, when you finish restocking to your satisfaction, then you open the store and you turn the sign from closed to open, and then your customers start coming in. So first customer comes in and he has some sort of connection to your aunt, and he says something about like, we had a disagreement. I don't want to get into it, but this is why I'm coming in the middle of the night, because I've been like sneaking around trying to avoid her. And he's shopping around the store and he's making comments like, the store is pretty well stocked, although I don't know why there's bread in the refrigerator. Or I kind of wish that all of these items weren't turned facing the wrong way, and things that like because you can go up to a display, press A, and take a closer look at what's there.
Are they all kind of passive aggressive?
Yeah, he's an older man too, so he's got that old man, passive aggressiveness.
On the website for this game, there are logos for Switch, Steam, Xbox, and PlayStation.
Okay, so maybe he did tell me. I can't totally remember. Maybe he said it was coming to Switch, but if it's there, that's a good sign. What he did tell me when I asked him, when are you hoping to release it? He kind of laughed and just said, when it's done. He's trying to get it out as soon as possible, but there was no like release window. But yeah, it was a great game. It has a lot of charm, a lot of style. Very unique. And like I said, having the old man come in and make those little comments, I was like, oh, I thought I had paid attention. I wasn't paying close enough attention. Very interested to see how the interpersonal things play out, and how, the convenience store is at the center of it all.
Cool.
The only other game that really blew me away, because there's a third game I'll talk about briefly, but the one that really very unique to me, it was called Out of Sight. Out of Sight is when I went to go play it, the developer asked me, what is your experience with second person perspective games? And I said, I can't say that I have much. And so you're playing as a little girl who is held captive somewhere, and she's blindfolded, and she has a teddy bear, and the teddy bear has the ability to see. And she knows this. And so the entire game, your perspective is from the teddy bear. So you hold the teddy bear while you're moving around, and that's whose eyes you're looking through, because she can't see. You will then put down the teddy bear in some specified, specific areas, designated areas. And you can move his head from left to right to see her better. And then you are in control of her. And you're solving puzzles and moving around, but you only ever see from the teddy bear's eyes.
There's a VR version coming.
Not interested, but it was so unique, and the reason it caught my eye was that the art style, something about it reminded me of Alice Madness Returns, which I mentioned, but he did not seem familiar with that game. But it's got this dark, kind of disturbing, almost dreamlike quality, nightmarish really quality about it. You're being chased, you're trying to get out of wherever it is that you're being held captive, and you're being chased by what seems to be an older couple who is holding you, and they don't want you to get out. It was fun. The puzzles were just challenging enough that you have to stop and think for a second, oh, okay, I gotta tip that over, I gotta pull this over here to climb on top of it. But the bear mechanic was just I thought that was so neat. And it's adorable because you can see his little feet sticking out in front of him. So they're kind of blurred because it's supposed to look like a realistic perspective looking from his eyes, but she's holding him out in front of her, walking with him, and his little fuzzy feeties are sticking out.
Angie really, really, really likes fuzzy animal feet. A lot. Stuffed animal feet, also real animal feet. If they're fuzzy.
Well, it definitely got me. I was an easy mark for that. So that one was fun. That one will probably not. I mean, maybe it'll come to Switch too, but it definitely seemed more of a PS5, Xbox,
Yeah, it's
Steam
at least
game.
not announced for that. It's PC, both Steam and Epic, Xbox, and PS5.
Yeah, like I would absolutely play it on the PS5. I'm genuinely looking forward to that game. The last one was Ultimate Sheep Racoon. This is made by Clever Endeavor. When I was working for a PR firm that worked with video game devs, I've mentioned that in the past. Clever Endeavor was actually one of my clients briefly, so I actually worked on some of the PR and marketing for Ultimate Chicken Horse. The rep who was there, the dev who was there, he said that this isn't like a strict sequel to Ultimate Chicken Horse, but it is the next game in that series. Ultimate Sheep Racoon, I thought was kind of funny because there's 4 characters: chicken, horse, sheep, raccoon.
So what do you think the third game is going to be called?
I don't know. I guess we'll figure it out. But Ultimate Sheep Racoon is it's got some Mario Maker elements, and it's a 2D. It's a party game up to 4 players. It's ideal to play with 4 people at a time for the most mayhem. But 2D racer, you start off like you pick your characters, and then at the beginning, everybody picks like a random obstacle to put into the course. You can put them in the sky, you can put them on the track, whatever. But things that you will interact with to either hinder you or help you during the race. And so it's just really just get from point A to point B. The first person to cross the line wins. But it starts getting crazier and crazier because you're adding stuff on. There is an item where you can detonate or blow up one of the obstacles. But for the most part, you're just adding stuff on over and over again. And so it gets crazier and crazier and more difficult, and then it's just like chaos by the end. And you play like a set number of rounds until the first person collects enough points to be the winner. But it was super fun. It was chaotic. It was interesting seeing. You could tell some people were just putting stuff on the track or in the air because they're like, I don't really know what to do with this. I don't know what it does, so whatever. And then some people that were being a little more methodical. But that balance of method versus madness made for a very interesting experience, and it was a lot of fun. So some kudos to Clever Endeavor on that one. Ultimate Chicken Horse was on the Switch. I can see Ultimate Sheep Racoon absolutely being a perfect fit for the Switch and coming to the Switch. So
it's so far announced for PlayStation, Xbox, and Windows.
Yeah, so we'll see if it ends up coming to.
But I'm sure right now there's a lot of like Switch 2 games
that
aren't.
I had this in mind. We'll talk more about other games later, but other games where I was like, these are either a perfect fit for the Switch or I can see this coming to Switch 2, especially given its graphical capabilities. So those are the games that caught my eye at Day of the Devs. Robert, you want to?
Day of the Devs. So I think the one I liked the most was called Starfetchers. For now, it's PC only. I thought it was interesting because the devs were kind of adamant that they didn't think they could get it to work on a controller, but I'm just like, well, swing the sword with the right stick, move with the left stick. Like, there's ways that you could make it work. But I had to play with mouse and keyboard, which I'm not very good at. But it's kind of surreal in the way that, like, Hotline Miami is. So it's sort of pixely looking graphics, but kind of not. Like, it's definitely not 3D. You're playing in a 2D perspective. And you're these 2, like, rival gangbanger types, I guess. And, but like I said, it's surreal, though. So, for one thing, I thought it was funny because it was kind of raunchy, kind of gritty in terms of its presentation and its storytelling. So, like, it starts off where one of the characters is on the ground. And I'm almost positive the character you're playing as is supposed to sort of look like Link from Zelda because he has a pointy green cap on. So he's on the ground, and the person he's with tells him, hey, what are you doing lying down on the ground? You're going to get Hep C from a needle. Like, it's just super funny. So you're going after these drug dealers who make... there is a drug that I think has the word "ein" in it. This one's called Bananadine. I'm thinking that's how it's pronounced. I don't think it's Bananadine. But so they make Bananadine, which is dried banana peel that's ground up, and then I think you either snort it or smoke it. And there's like this running gag about it where it's like, that's not a real drug. And then people are insisting, no, it is. It's super addicting. So the whole thing is just bizarre. And you're infiltrating their little compound. And it's part platformer, kind of reminiscent of, it made me think of Meat Boy, Super Meat Boy. But it's not that intense of platforming. But you're avoiding like these buzzsaws and having to jump over pits. But then you're also swinging around a sword or shooting a gun. and that's all being handled using the mouse. And so the drug dealers are like goblin people, so you're like fighting them. Just super weird and surreal, and I thought a lot of fun. And it really, like, I don't know, it speaks, like, to me, when you're at Day of the Devs, what's fascinating about it is the bar to entry for game development now is lower than it's ever been. Because anyone, as long as you have a computer that can run it, can go download Unreal Engine, can go download Unity, you can download Godot. There's all these different platforms out there now where you can make a game. And so you have all sorts of people who maybe never would have originally tried game development who are giving it a go. Just like a wider range of personalities. But it also means a wider range of ideas coming from like the indie scene. I can't really imagine this game being made by any of the premier publishers, but you give a game engine to a couple random people and they can come up with something like this. And to be fair, I don't even know what they built it in. I don't know if it was Unity or Unreal or whatever, but my point is just that it was so bizarre, so different, had such a unique sort of narrative going on. And like, you know, I think it's making the indie scene more interesting than it's ever probably been. You know, sometimes the polish is there, sometimes the polish is not there, but it makes that part of the industry just so much more fascinating to me.
So I looked it up while you were talking, like I was doing what Angie was mentioning. This game came out in 2020. What?
I think it's still not done then, because they were showing it like it was new.
No, it was out in 2020. It's got a ton of reviews on Steam. Maybe they're like planning to release it on something else.
That not according to them.
Okay.
They're hoping that maybe they would. It ended saying that like you could play the first episode on Steam, but the rest is coming.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So that might be what it is. So that was pretty good. I played another one. God, I'm going to butcher the name. I think it was Demonschool or something like that. It was okay. Like it gave me the vibe that it was trying to be like Persona 5. You're in a school. It's a Japanese school, or at least I think it's a Japanese school. It had the feel of a Japanese school. But like it had the quirky cast, and the quirky cast was like bracingly modern day. And particularly in terms of like dialogue. So like that part of it wasn't appealing to me, but the pixel art's great. Like a very beautiful, detailed world that they've made. And the combat was kind of interesting. It's grid-based, you know, strategy RPG sort of stuff, but it has this like pushing mechanic. So like as you pass a character in a tile, you'll shove them, and that means like you can shove an enemy and then they might go backwards and do damage, or maybe you shove or touch a partner and then that activates an ability between the two of them. So I thought all of that was pretty well done. So that was kind of cool.
I am again looking at this game online. I noticed what seems to be the protagonist, or maybe one of the leads, is she's got like reddish hair and like a black t-shirt over a longer sleeve blue shirt. I mention this because she's got text on the shirt, but this is the kind of visual novel game where you like swap to different sides. You know, they just kind of like mirror the portrait on the other side. So that means part of the time the text on this is backwards.
Oh.
That's weird.
That is weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be something to think about. See, though, indie scene, you know, that's the kind of detail you might not miss. Or it's a $300 million, you know, EA project. But anyway, another game I liked was Super Farming Boy. I think it's Super Farming Boy. And that one had this sort of hand-drawn aesthetic. And you're in this small game space, which represents like your field where you're farming. And just bizarre narrative. He's living inside of, I think it's like the Super Goo House or something. It's like this big gelatin creature that is your house, and then when you don't wake up, he spits you out, which I thought was kind of funny. But what made it interesting was that it's, you know, it's Harvest Moon-esque, but there's a combo system. So if you pull out a type of vegetable, depending on what the crop is that you've pulled out, it'll pop and then launch right. And then when it launches right, it hits whatever's next to it, makes it pop out, and then it just keeps going. Then there's larger crops that can be pulled. So instead of like a single square, it represents like maybe 6 squares of crop. It's like a giant carrot, basically. And so if you pull out a crop next to it and it chains with it, it'll do like quote-unquote damage to the crop so that you can eventually get it to the point that you can pull it out. And I guess you get like mega points or currency
you want to damage your crops in this game?
Well, you're weakening it so that it will actually pull out. It's like a damage meter. There's an enemy, and I'm forgetting the enemy's name, but it made me laugh. It was like Mega Corpo or something like that. So it's like the giant corporation comes to buy up your farm. It's like a hostile takeover, but then they abduct your mom. And so there's that kind of part of it going on too. So it was super weird. Again, kind of on the surreal side, but very well made. And I thought enjoyable. Now, I'm not going to name this game because I don't want to crap all over him. But there was another farming sim that I played, and it was like the exact opposite of this one in terms of just like polish, in terms of concept. Like, it had potential that it could at least be maybe just a good kind of rote Harvest Moon type of game. But the way it was, it felt so much like somebody had just opened up Unreal Engine and was taking assets and kind of flinging them in there, and is like, see, now it's a farm, and it's like, oh, okay. And so generic tiles that you till the land, you throw a seed in, you water it. You could go into town and interact, but like none of the buildings were dressed inside, so like the buildings were like super empty. Characters are walking away from you in the building, which I thought was funny because it's clear that you're supposed to be interacting with the villagers, but like the way they move around, like you could miss them because they're in the building and then maybe in a corner away from you. The whole thing was just kind of a mess. And then I played Super Farming Boy right after and was like, oh man, like it kind of sucks that they're even positioned right next to each other. So much better.
Did this other game have a hook? Or
Not
like an
really.
idea? It was just like, at least where it is right now, it's just basically Harvest Moon.
Where it is right now is just Harvest Moon.
Okay.
Harvest Moon with animals. So it's like furries Harvest Moon.
Oh, well, see, there's your hook. Why don't you mention that?
Yeah, there you go.
That's enough for some people, right?
So I felt kind of bad because it was a little glitchy, some typos. All I could think was this was not ready for prime time. They must have got the slot for Day of the Devs and just couldn't get their act together by then. But it was okay. And I think that was it for what I got my hands on at Day of the Devs. Now, we'll transition into GDC, so I just want to talk about it a little before we discuss that. So, Game Developers Conference, which happens right after Day of the Devs, is, as it says in the name, it's the Game Developers Conference. It is very much geared towards people who are in the industry or interested in joining the industry. It's prohibitively priced. It's like $1,000 to $2,000, I think, just to get in. $2,000 probably represents like the ultimate pass that you can get. I'd have to look at the pricing, but you could get into E3 at the end, and I think it might have even been around $1,000. But the way GDC is priced, it's meant to encourage somebody who's serious about gaming coming in. And there's, it's not a bunch of announcements. It's not like E3 where it's like, oh, here's the big game coming from Sony this year. I don't think hardly any real announcements happen along those lines. You will occasionally get bigger developers like Capcom or Sega or whoever who shows up at GDC. But for the most part, it's smaller studios, and it's a lot of talks. So there's people there discussing the state of the industry, doing postmortems. You have all sorts of different industry personalities in there. And it's just a fascinating environment. It's at the Moscone Center in San Francisco. I think that it's really eye-opening in a couple of different ways. So, like, I think I'll start it with the student projects. So it's like the Control, I think it's like Control Alt Delete or something like that. That's down in the lower level of the Moscone Center. And when you go in there, it's projects coming from schools, which to me is just, it's so fun because it's even a step removed from Day of the Devs. Because Day of the Devs are not necessarily students. It's just independent developers. What you're seeing at the Moscone Center with GDC is like these are actual kids at a campus somewhere who are in a game design program. And it like totally makes me think of my own students and things they would make. But these guys are next level. So like unfortunately I can't remember all the names of the games. So I'm just going to have to describe what I saw. But one was something like Get Off My Booty, I think. And it's this big wooden seesaw structure that's done up to look like a pirate ship. And you are tilting the seesaw, 2 players, so that you're aiming a cannon so that you can blow up the enemy pirate ships that are nearby. You just press a button in front of you, and it goes boom and fires. So it was just, like, conceptually, is it the most complicated thing? No. But the fact that it's connected to this actual big wooden seesaw in real life is what makes it so fun. And then, as I've seen with other GDCs in the past, it's a project where I'm like, that might not ever end up on a console, but that could absolutely be in a Dave & Buster's. And, like, you get two people that are drunk on the seesaw, and they're just going back and forth and hitting the button. Or even in a Chuck E. Cheese with some kids, same thing. They're not drunk, but they're having fun. I thought it was a really cool idea. Another one that I saw, and this one I can't remember the name, but it was a sensor kind of plugged towards one of your temples, the right temple of your head. And there's some wires coming out of it. And it's essentially for people with mobility issues. And even though, somebody might not be able to actually move, they can use the muscles like in their face. I can't remember exactly how they described it, but it's like your muscle movements, the slightest movements, would get the game to move based on that. So you can walk around a dungeon, you can do stuff with the most minimal of inputs. So I thought that was incredibly clever, like a step up from the adaptive controllers that we've been seeing the past few years.
So you didn't get to try that one yourself?
I did not get to try, but I watched it. I watched the person who was sitting. There was that.
What if they faked the whole thing? What if it was pre-recorded?
It could have been.
It was all just snake oil.
There was. I couldn't help myself. There was another one. Again, I don't remember the name, but it was like shooting stars falling from the sky.
I think it was called Meet Me in the Rain.
Okay, so yeah. Meet Me in the Rain. That one, there's these stars falling, and in the real world, you're holding a jar that has like little star bits inside of it. And as you move the jar, it has just like a motion sensor inside, and you're collecting the bits. So the screen is matching your movements with the jar outside of the screen. I thought it was super clever. And it was fun because I walked up to one of the girls that was the designers, and I said, are you one of the devs? And she said, oh yeah. I said, you know what you have to do next, right? And she goes, what should we do? I said, you got to make the bits in the jar light up every time that a star catches in the game. And she started laughing, and she said, we are going to do that. She goes, we just couldn't get it to work before GDC. I was like, oh, that's too bad. I go, but yeah, that would be great. So all the student projects were really awesome. One that was not a student project, but it was, again, experimental. It was coming from a small dev. I believe the dev's name is Ovomind or Ovamind. It's one of the two. They demoed like a smart band, basically. Not a smart watch, but like a band. You put it on your wrist. It can measure things like heartbeat, heart rate, pulse, also like micro sweat. So it gets really into the weeds of your biometrics. And what it does is it's impacting the gameplay based on your emotional state. So it's using these readings to figure out what are you feeling at the moment. So are you scared? If you're extra scared, and it's a horror game, the game would start to make your vision blur and make it harder for you to like move around. And then as you calm down, the game recognizes you're calming down. Your breathing is matched in the game, so it's like cold and you can see your breath shooting out of the player's mouth in first person. It's actually matching your own breathing. So the pace you breathe is the pace of the breathing in the game. I thought that was another really clever idea that had a lot of potential. The one thing I thought was holding it back was the wearable part. Now, they said that they had a manufacturer that I guess was down to like start making these for them. But I'm just like, well, unless you can keep it at like $100, and even then that's maybe pushing it a little bit, that's kind of a bar of entry. But if you could figure out how to get it to work off of just like a typical smartwatch as well, like then maybe you have something. They claimed that there were a couple people who were interested, including Apple. So like, we'll see what happens with this technology. But that was another fun project. So I think Angie also saw some stuff at GDC.
Yeah, so down in the expo floor, which is massive, they'll have one section of the floor dedicated to some of the more... some of the bigger studios, like last year, Epic had a really big booth, had a giant Fortnite pinata thing display. Meta is there, and Unreal, and on and on. But they also have independent games, or like, I guess you could call them what are they calling now, like the indie games that have like slightly bigger budgets, like not like AAA indies, but it's something like that. But these are games that are not made by students, but they are from like smaller studios. And one I saw was called Spirit Strike, and it's by either Micha Studio or Micah Studio. And they were very enthusiastic. They were saying that it was they took some inspiration from Devil May Cry, from Dragon Ball, from what was the other game that they cited? I can't remember the third one.
You mentioned Fist of the North Star.
Thank you, Fist of the North Star. So it was a 3D beat 'em up, and it was just fun. Like it they were not shy to say like the story really isn't that important. It is just kind of harkening back to the 90s beat 'em ups where there's like a super basic intro storyline, why, what the characters' motivations are, but ultimately you're just there to just beat people up. It's a very smooth fighting system, very very fun to rack up your combos. The tutorial was super easy to get through, and the dev was really nice. That game, I don't believe had a set release date or even a release window. They're still working on it, but
sorry to cut you off. Some of these games, did you get to demo yourself?
I demoed that one myself. And it's funny because they'll give you like free swag, if you sit down and actually demo it. But that one was really fun. He was walking me through the tutorial at one point and was like, oh, you're going to have to do X in order to move through this. And so I just like immediately did it, and he was really happy because that's part of the interesting thing about GDC is like they're looking to make sure that people are playing the game and like they understand it. If people are getting stuck, if people don't really understand what's going on, like I'll talk about a game that I demoed later where the dev talked about this. He was like, we demoed it at Day of the Devs, and then I went back to my Airbnb that night and I was adjusting like the heights of walls or whatever in response to feedback he was getting from players at the show.
Yeah, it's just play test.
Basically, yeah. So Spirit Strike was really fun, super easy to like pick up and play. And he was watching me play and he's pulling off combos and he was like, beautiful, fantastic, that's awesome. Like he was just so happy to see it. They also have some sections that are split up by country, so they'll have a bunch of developers from one country who are in like one section. And in the Japan area, I tried Mononoke No Kuni by a developer called Studio Lights. That is an adventure game that I asked him what his inspirations were. He said Zelda and Okami. You can totally see it in the gameplay and in the music. But you are this little character going around this very stylized world, beating up, like I think they're called Mononoke, just like various kind of like demons and creatures around the world. It very much was like a Zelda meets Okami, and Okami's already inspired by Zelda anyway, but really beautiful game. Looking forward to that one. The one that I spent the most time on, it was like I want to say maybe a 45-minute demo, was a game called Big Hops by Luckshot Games. I did an interview and was talking with the director, Chris Wade. It is a 3D platformer game. You play as a frog. You can see the art style was cel shaded. It was very reminiscent of like Wind Waker. You get separated from your frog sister and kidnapped by this weirdo and taken to like another dimension. So it was a pretty sizable demo. It is Chris's second game. They had another game on the Switch prior. I'll be publishing my interview with him soon on Nintendo Joe with more information there. But long and short of it is that he's hoping to... He was saying how like the 3D platforming genre relies a lot on nostalgia and how he kind of wants to move beyond that. And one of the things he wanted to do with his game was take the interactivity of like open worlds and how when you're in an open world games, you can interact with so much in your environment with people, with objects, etc. And he really wants to introduce that interactivity into a 3D platforming game. He actually worked at a VR company when he first started developing this game and then quit and then took a lot of what he was frustrated by and inspired by in VR and is applying it to this game. So that was pretty cool. One that I really, really wanted to see more And I'll be frank, I was a little frustrated. Is a game that's coming out called The Bustling World, and it's going to be an open world RPG. The art style is like ripped right from traditional Chinese paintings. It was an incredibly beautiful game. They had a massive booth with this huge screen, and like it's just playing endlessly, just gameplay from the game. But when I walked up to try to learn more, it was basically just like a whole lot of we don't know when this game is coming out, and they were like hyping it up, saying it's like a mash of a bunch of games like GTA and Animal Crossing and farming sims like Harvest Moon and on. And I was like, that's cool, but like you don't have like a demo, you don't have. And then they came unprepared. Like the expo floor didn't open until Wednesday. I saw them Wednesday like late afternoon. They had already run out of pamphlets because their pamphlets were really neat in that like they were like very high quality, and when you turned them around, it had like it was just like this big long open pamphlet of like Chinese art. But because they were really beautiful and popular, they went really fast. But they were out for the rest of the show, and the show went until Friday. So like I went again on Thursday, and I was like, "Hey, do you have any more pamphlets?" And he's like, "Oh, no, sorry, we just have this one, and I can't give it away because it's the only one left." Not great marketing. I'm like jazzed for the game based on what I saw, but I wasn't able to like bring home the pamphlet to get like more information, and it was a little odd. They
underestimated how popular.
They may have, which I mean, they really shouldn't have, because it's an incredible looking game, and just the type of crowd who's at GDC, like they're going to be super interested in a traditional Chinese art style open world RPG.
Pretty unusual too, because it's like I can't think of anyone that I've encountered in the few GDCs I've been to that just ran out of what they needed so quickly. It's like, and you have nothing else to offer people who are coming up. It's like you'd think the pamphlet would be the thing that you would have just an abundance of.
Well,
like everyone has pamphlets and cards and everything, and these guys are just like, no, we have one we'll all share and nothing else to offer.
Here's the other thing, is that they had pins, which I got like a really neat pin. You had to give them a business card, so that's whatever, yeah, fine. But then they were offering Chinese calligraphy, and so again, when I went
like
on
lessons.
Yeah, like when I went on Wednesday, and you could take home the calligraphy that you did. When I went on Wednesday, you know, the guy who's sitting at the table, he has brushes and he has an inkwell and he has paper set up in front of him. And I'm like, "Oh, are you doing Chinese calligraphy?" And he said, "Oh yeah, but we're done for the day." And I'm like thinking to myself, well, I don't know why. Like there wasn't like a crowd of people at this booth. Like there was nobody at the booth. So I said, okay. And he goes, "But if you want to do it, you can sign up here, scan the QR code, fill out the form." So I fill out the form. I don't get like a time slot, like a confirmation. It's just like, okay, thanks, you're signed up. So I go Thursday. Thursday was the day where I spent the most time. I was there the entire day, from morning until when it closed. So I get there at like, I think I walked up at like 10 or 11 a.m. or something like that. Same dude. And I'm like, "Oh, hey, I signed up for the calligraphy, the Chinese calligraphy, like, but I didn't get a time slot." He's like, "Oh, it doesn't start until 1. And it's first come, first served. And we only have 17 spots. So if you want to do it, like, you should make sure that you're lined up here prior to 1. And I'm like, even if I filled out the form, like, I didn't get like a time slot confirmation, but like, there's no guarantees. Like, no, it's first come, first served. I didn't even bother like trying to go back. It's like, bro, like you ran out of pamphlets. You have a limited amount of these pins and only 17 slots for the whole day to do Chinese calligraphy. Come on. Like it's just like, it's things like that where it's like, I understand these are developers that they're still working out the kinks in terms of their marketing and stuff. But this is just so unbelievably obvious to me and common sense where it's like, you have this incredible game and really not much to show for it.
There might be some difficult logistics. I assume these devs are Chinese.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like maybe somebody couldn't travel that they were counting on, you know, stuff could have been lost in transit.
Yeah.
Had to travel a long way. So maybe stuff like that was involved.
Yeah.
Or it could have just been poor planning. I don't know. You still interested in the game though?
Yes. Like very much. I mean, like looking at all the gameplay, they had like different examples of like the stealth, the combat, the like actual physical building you can do. like building buildings and stuff like that, farming. It's just like it's one of those games where it's like you can do a million different things.
Yeah, clicking around, I'm seeing this described as an open world RPG. I saw somebody describe it as a survival game. Somebody describe it as a farming game.
Yeah.
Somebody talk about like you can befriend every character in the game. I'm like, is it okay? I think maybe these guys bit off a lot. I don't know if they can handle all that, but
it makes me worry, if you're kind of like, jack of all trades, master of none, but I would still absolutely be willing to try it. It looked really beautiful and fun.
yeah.
So, I think that was it for your games, right, Angie?
Yeah, that was for the games, yeah.
So, in terms of talks, the one I would like to focus on was on generative AI, and it was, what's the name of it, Andrew? I think it was like the human cost of generative AI. And Rez Graham was the developer who was talking about it. So they had like an entire day of talks on AI and just like the different technologies. So Graham is discussing this, and it's funny because all the other talks I think were just like, here's tools using AI. And it's like, oh, cool, this is the new thing you can do. Graham came in with this cautionary tale and was saying there is a human cost associated with using this technology. So for one thing, the scrapes themselves are often unethical because there is no permission asked from the creators that you're taking all this work from. So if you go in and you're looking for art, it's just going to look for art. It doesn't care who made it. It's not going to credit you for it. It's not going to acknowledge that it's using your art to train the AI. And this is an issue that a lot of creatives rightfully aren't very pleased with because they're saying, hey, you're just taking our work. You're not even asking. You're not paying. And then you use it to produce work that is the second problem with this technology, work that's displacing human workers. So ultimately, if you're using generative AI in a game, I mean, the amount of technology that's devoted to it right now is insane. If you walked GDC, you can find generative AI that would produce character models for you. Then there's generative AI that will actually do the rigging of that character model. It'll do the animations for the model. There's generative AI that will handle how assets and everything are like loaded in. So like all these different things that would involve a human touch or human skill are being replaced through the generative AI. And that in and of itself is another issue, right? So,
I have a question. You both went to this talk, right? Was anybody there brave enough to push back to be like, actually, AI is good?
No, actually, everyone there was very. He was preaching to the choir, essentially. He was very worried that this would genuinely cost him some connections in the industry.
Get him blacklisted.
Yeah.
It might, but it's not going to make him unpopular at GDC.
No, if anything, he had, because we all had a bunch of questions that we wanted to ask him, and so he had this massive crowd trailing him at the end of the show, trying to like talk more to him, connect with him afterwards. So he definitely had like a fan base after that because he was speaking to a lot of these people's concerns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The situation reminds me of the plot of Split Fiction.
Oh, really?
Because you're like two writers and they're getting their ideas stolen.
Well, Robert talked about how, and even the title of this is the human cost of it. He anonymized some of the interviews that he had with people leading up to his talk, informing his talk. And one of them was an animator who was working on a major show. The show ended, and so he needed another job. And the only job that he could get, because AI is impacting games, but it's also really, really heavily affecting the animation industry. And so the only job this guy could get was cleaning up AI art. And he said that it was like soul crushing, that he felt like a traitor as an animator who was basically just like cleaning up AI generated assets for whatever show this was. But he was saying straight up, but like, I have a family to feed and I have a roof to keep over my head. And this is what I have to do to stay afloat. And so it's pretty awful for creatives that have been, in these industries for years, or they're trying to break in and they're basically just being told like, just learn how to feed the AI machine. And he also, Rez, the speaker, he provided some excerpts from an interview with Midjourney, which is an AI image generating company, research company. I I think it was like a Forbes interview, and they were being asked. I think it's a he. He was being asked. So what about like all the artists and companies that don't want to be part of your AI program, the shit that you're scraping basically? And all of his answers were very dodgy, and he was saying things like, well, I'm not aware of anyone who doesn't want to be scraped by us, and also just we're working on it.
Yeah, I thought the talk was fascinating, but like ultimately, I don't know how much of a difference it's going to make. Like, we're in this situation now where there's such a constant demand for content that it's almost like human creation can't even keep up with it. Because it's like, if you think about like a streaming service with television shows, you will take a decade's worth of TV, 10 years of work, and if not longer, 10 seasons might not even be 10 years, it might be 15 years, who knows? It's years of work, and you put it on Netflix, and then someone will sit and binge it across 2-3 days, whatever it might be, some ridiculously short span of time compared to the 10 years. So that means you can't stretch things quite the same way. So it's like, now obviously you have a bunch of TV shows across a bunch of years of creation, but if you're sitting and binging, that means you've gone through all of whatever show you watched, and now it's like, okay, now I want more. So if you're whoever it might be, let's just say NBC, and you have Peacock, and it's like, oh, I just blasted through all of Friends. It's like, okay, so now you've satiated that Friends urge, and now you might not even want to watch Friends for a little while because you watch so much of it. You have to have content to replace it. And that's the thing, is this generative AI is producing content, not necessarily like art or true thoughtful stuff. So by the nature of that beast, you're seeing it everywhere. The game industry is like this too. It's like you can sit and play, like if you have Game Pass, there's just like dozens and dozens of games. So it's like you have to up the ante. It's like we have to have more. So it's like, I don't know you ever are able to fix this. It's getting to the point where it's like just human-made, pure human, art and content, games, movies, whatever, is going to be something that becomes almost like boutique. And then the AI, whether it's a full project or partially creating it, it's just there. Like, so I don't know, it goes away.
This seems like a strange prediction because like all of us around the table know, like, just talking about video games, we already can't keep up with the human-made games that are coming out that we want to play. Mm-hmm. I understand like the cost-cutting rationale for AI to be like, well, we can make a series without as much labor cost involved, but like nobody needs more things to watch than already exist. We already can't keep up with everything that's being made.
Robert has a point in that even in my industry, in content marketing, it's getting harder and harder to find job listings, for example, that don't say that the content marketer has to have some experience working with AI or AI models.
No, it's definitely going to affect.
Like I get what Robert's saying, where it's like, it's getting to the point where everything, even some blog you wrote, isn't in some way connected to AI, whether just the outline was written with AI to make it easier for the content marketer to appease some bean counter, in the HR department or the finance department, or what, but it's just like, it's getting harder to just say, yeah, I wrote this and I didn't use AI to help me.
Yeah, no, I get that. The impact on the labor market for sure. It seems like it's less about like the audience saying they want more, and more about the suits saying they want more.
Well, that is, I think, partially true. I mean, it will be interesting to see how it plays out, because if you look at the streaming companies, again, we're talking about like the video-based ones, so Peacock, Paramount Plus, whatever, you're seeing that a lot of them aren't really doing very well. So it's like, I think Peacock's not that great in terms of its numbers. Paramount Plus definitely is not. You're getting to the point where some of these firms are probably going to consolidate or even potentially outright end their service, because what they're finding is it's like, well, I can just license out this 50, 60, 80 years worth of content that I have, make a ton of money on that, and let Netflix deal with the streaming part of it. It's like, we'll get our money, they get some content. So as you consolidate, the overwhelming demand for more might subside a little bit, because it's like, okay, now it's kind of concentrated into 1, 2, 3 major platforms. You're seeing that kind of with Disney and Hulu Plus, where it's like Disney Plus doesn't really have much of an audience, but you throw in the Hulu audience, now you're really talking about something there. So that might mean, less of a demand, but I think the appeal to corporate people is the cost cutting. It's just purely, hey, instead of a team of 10, now I have a team of 1. One of the AI technologies at GDC, I've seen it 2 years in a row now, is for play testing, where you can set up your SKUs. It's like, here's my Xbox, my PlayStation, my Nintendo SKU, mobile, and then you take the AI and you say, go play test it.
It's crazy with how cheap, how poorly QA people are compensated too.
Now, to play devil's advocate, though, I will say this. Let's say you're a small dev, and it's like, I don't have the money to pay for play testers. It's like, I can't get a whole bunch of people, compensate them, whatever. So that could be beneficial, because then it's like, well, instead of having 4 people who have to moderate all of the play testing and blah, 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 instead it's just me. I do my play testing with this technology, and now I can just sit down and go through the report that it gives me for every platform, right? And the only thing I have to worry about is maybe getting 1 or 2 people to play test, because the AI still can't tell me if it's fun. The AI can tell me if there's bugs, but it's not going to give me real-time reactions from people.
Isn't there a practical case for this for larger companies too? Because it's not just about labor, it's about time. Like if you are supposed, if a game you're making, you say you're EA or whatever, the game you're making is supposed to go gold in a week, and you find some new major bug, your devs patch it. Does that leave enough time for QA to go through it? Whereas if you have like AI, you can scale up massively and be able to do a lot of testing within a couple days.
Well, see, this is what's frustrating, is that is logical. It's like that, and that is probably how the technology should be used. But that's not how corporations will approach it. So it's like, it can save you time, it could be used as an actual tool, but the reality is it's just replace, automate.
And Rez talked about this. He's like, I don't want to shit all over AI entirely. There's a case to be made for how it can actually be beneficial for developers, but it should be, it should assist the developer. It should not replace them. It should not replace anyone on the team. But because all these companies care about is profit, that's exactly how it's being used. He actually at one point said, how many people in the room are either from San Francisco or from the Bay Area? And we raised our hands. And he was like, do you remember this shit? And he shows this bus stop ad. And it was for a company called Artisan AI. And I actually let out a gasp inadvertently, because I told him afterwards, outside of the room, I said, I'm really glad that you called out Artisan AI. Artisan AI reached out to me, I think it was last year, to interview me for a content marketing position. And Artisan AI exists to create digital marketers. Now, not in the sense that any of you listening might understand what digital marketing is. I mean literally digital people. So it is a content marketer, a demand gen marketer, a product marketing manager, etc., who are not real people, but they are AI people that you would have as your marketing team. So instead of having to pay marketers, you can just have a bunch of digital people. So this role would be me doing content marketing for Artisan AI and essentially ushering in my own obsolescence here, because I'm marketing this company being like, hey, instead of paying a marketing team, have digital people. And then one day my job is gone because all these other companies jump on the bandwagon and they're like, yeah, why would I pay you when I could just get a digital marketer? And so I told him I was stunned that he even put it up on the screen. I had actually forgotten about that interview. And I told him too that as soon as I understood what it was, because they were a little cagey in the job description about like what exactly it was they did. And when I was having a conversation with the CEO, I was just disgusted. Finished the conversation, and then I just cold turkey, just never responded to them again. He was like, I can't believe you got through the interview. I said, yeah, me neither. But going back to the topic of the guy who was like, but I have, bills to pay and kids to feed, this role paid extremely well. I think it was somewhere in like the $200,000 range, like 170 to 200. That's hard to deny when you've been laid off for the umpteenth time, or you're just looking for another job and you need a role. So they're preying on people. That's the other part of this that's really gross, is that they're preying on the desperate. And for creatives, whether it's gaming or otherwise, we are getting increasingly desperate because we're increasingly finding our roles farmed out to AI. It's scary.
Well, it's annoying too because it's like Rez gave the overused but accurate Ian Malcolm quote of, just because you can, does that mean that you should? You see this proliferation of AI, and it's in like everything. And at the Game Developers Conference, like I said, it's like virtually every aspect of the production pipeline. Someone's trying to figure out how to automate it. It's like the conceptual process. Give me a character. I want a knight. And then it gives you a knight. And then you can fine tune. It's like, oh, I want a golden knight. Oh, I want him to have a buster sword. And it just keeps giving it to you, giving it to you, giving it to you. You can then take that, give it to another AI and say, okay, make this 3D. Then it makes it 3D. And then I need you to animate. I need you to rig and animate this golden knight with the buster sword. And it does it. So it's like, it just keeps going and going and going. And it's like, his whole thing at the end of the talk was, it leads to the death of art. And I mean, I don't disagree with that. I think that is kind of an inevitable outcome. But like, when I look at something like a game, it's like, so is the game the only point just purely, I have product, now I play? Or is there, a little bit of like, or if not a little bit, like a huge part of the endeavor is, it's this achievement of human creation. Apparently, when you get to the end of Assassin's Creed Shadows, the credits are 2 hours long. What?
I was going to say, don't spoil anything for Zach.
Well, I'm not going to spoil anything for anyone.
Yeah.
It's 2 hours long. That's a lot of people that it's 2 hours to list. And it's pretty incredible to imagine that many people combining to make something. But with AI, now your credits will be 10 minutes because it only took 2 people and the computer did most of the creation for them. I gave the comparison of like art, where if you watch an animation of, I don't know, like a cherry blossom falling from a tree in Japan, and it's beautiful and you see it swirl and it eventually comes and hits the ground, what you enjoy about that animation isn't necessarily just the sight of it, it's that a human being sat and made every frame and was able to recreate it, and it's just this beautiful thing. As we continue to automate and just come up with these technologies, you're just getting rid of more and more and more and more things that people can do, and it's like, well, what problem are you solving? That was Graham's words, is what problem are you solving with this? It's like, is it a problem to make something fun, to create a piece of art, to do all these different things? And then the bigger question in terms of the human cost is, so what do you do with everybody when everything's automated? I don't have to cook. I don't have to clean. I don't have to draw. I don't have to write. I don't have to think. I just exist. And then the AI does all these things. What are we doing? It's like, and from the practical standpoint too, of like having a job, it's like, so I need to work. I'd like to not just go work at McDonald's for minimum wage. Maybe I want to do something. Even if you go through the trouble to get a specialized education to rig and animate a 3D model, they want to take that from you. It's like, what are we supposed to do as people?
Yeah, well, that was the ultimate question that Rez did not necessarily answer, but was just kind of positing and putting out there, which is, this is the ultimate consequence. And is anybody really even thinking about it? Because he also said, too, that he was inspired to do this talk because last year's GDC, he was like, there were just so many talks about AI and how AI was essentially like the second coming of Christ, but no one was really talking about the other side of the coin. And he didn't like the heavy skew on like, look at how great it is. It's so wonderful. It's going to be like life-changing for this industry, and not talking about the consequences of it.
It is scary, but I do think there's no getting away from it. The same way that like after the invention of the car, horse and buggy whip manufacturers just went out the window, and like over and over, you see this throughout history. Industries go away. What's scary about AI is that it seems like it can replace so much, and it's hard to know what life looks like after that.
I think it's kind of weird that, the industry, they want to pump out more and more and more and more. One thing that doesn't change is like, okay, an average person, there's 24 hours in a day, right? Seems like all these companies want a piece of your day. Like they want to be in front of you, for an hour or two. And it's not just games. It's like Robert was saying, streaming service. It's like, who can get your attention?
Yeah.
You know, and like, you know, half of the day, some people are on their phone just watching, you know, content creators or whatever. So it's like, how can they say that this is a good approach when half or more than half of the content they're pushing out might not even be absorbed?
I have an idea about that. I think Sony and Xbox can put out premium AI products that play games for you, earn achievements for you, and then can suggest parts of their own gameplay for you to rewatch.
Hey man, you know, I think that whole news with Xbox and Companion or whatever it's called, you know, like PlayStation has the hint bar or whatever, and it can, like, you know, take you to the internet for a guide. You know, you never know. It could let you, oh, you're having difficulty, I'll play through the level for you.
Yeah.
Well, there are games that do that now, where you can let the game take over and play. I forget, I can't think of examples now, but it's a thing already. And then look at Facebook, right? So Facebook just rolled out, I think they took them down already, but I think it was just for technical issues. The fake users. They had AI users thrown into the pool of real users, and it's like, what is the purpose of this? The whole point is you're interacting with other people. Now I need a digital person to come in, like.
And it told Robert how darkly ironic it is that people have had their accounts banned or frozen because they were buying users, and that was strictly against like the TOSs of all these different platforms. Now it's like, but it's okay when we do it.
And like, think about it this way. Let's say they pause development on everything right now. We'd all have enough content to play for a decade. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, not counting replays of things that I'd like to get around to replaying. I think I've got like 100 games in my backlog right now.
Yeah.
It just seems stupid that, you know, their only goal is to pump out as much as possible.
Well, the funny thing too is that I don't think they're even realizing that that's not going to help them, because they keep talking about a lot of these projects that keep failing or underperforming. I mean, like, look at Star Wars Outlaws, this huge project, all this money, Disney, you know, their IPs being used, and nobody bought that game, you know, and it wasn't even that great when it came out. And then they say PC gamers, it's like, what is it, like 92% of what PC gamers are playing is it 10-year-old games or 5-year-old?
Well, I have the stats on that, actually. It is PC player. This is actually from another talk that... did you attend this with me, Robert? The State of PC and Console Gaming?
No.
Yeah, so I went to the State of PC and Console Gaming in 2025, and it was just about a whole bunch of different statistics on revenue and player analysis for the past year. And one of the stats was PC players heavily skewed toward older live service games. 2/3 of all time spent playing PC games was on games that were 6+ years old.
So, you know, that's old content right there. And
It's not necessarily old content, right? Like if somebody's playing Fortnite, Overwatch, Destiny 2, those are all at least 6 years old, even if they're still getting new content.
well, yeah, I mean, they're updated, but just the point is the new stuff that's coming out isn't people aren't latching onto it. So it's like figuring out the demand. I mean, that's its own thing right there, but
Yeah.
We just need less but better.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the other stats that you
That
know,
makes more sense.
yeah, one of the other stats, I was talking to everyone here before we started recording. One of the concerns that was brought up in that State of the Industry talk was that players are more and more skewing towards being 1 to 3 game a year players. This is often, but not exclusively, people who play annual games like Call of Duty, Madden, 2K, who tend to gear towards like shooters, stuff like that, but not entirely. It could just be someone who, and they acknowledge this, I believe, someone who's playing like an RPG that you can put 150, 200 plus hours in, and that's the bulk of what they're playing in the year. Maybe they have kids, they have a busy job, whatever, but it's going to keep them busy for that year.
Yeah, because the average gamer can maybe game 3 hours a day, but that's a lot in itself.
Yeah.
How long would a 150-hour game take?
Yes, and so
Literally,
yeah. Well, they were also talking too about how that makes it more difficult for them to be reachable by the industry with new games. So the more that you become this 1 to 3 game a year guy, the harder it is for the industry to reach you with a new game. But the thing that they're not talking about, and they never talk about it, is just the overall quality of what you're getting. It's not just about I don't have the time or I don't have the money. It's also I don't have the will because you're shoveling shit at me that I have no interest in playing. And that's a whole other discussion in itself, but they never talk about that either.
I think it's funny too, because like one of the talk that was right before Graham's was about using AI for managing the loading of your giant ass game world, where your game world's so freaking big that in order to optimize the game so that it runs smoothly and well on whatever hardware it's on, the AI will go in to make sure that it was, the way they described it was like it's going like cell by cell. So if you imagine your game world is like a bunch of cubes all stacked together, if you're within a certain cube, the AI can figure out, okay, he's within that cube, so then this cell, this cell, this cell, this cell, this cell are all probably going to be ones that he goes into or could go into. So we'll have those loaded and activated and ready. The other ones will not be there. And then as you keep traversing, it shuts down those cells, opens up other ones. The AI is calculating where you're going and on and on and on. And it's just like...
This doesn't sound like it requires AI to do, right? You could just be like, if the player is at this XY coordinates with this vector, then probabilistically they're going to be going into one of those zones, right? Like that's a very small amount of math that a human can figure out. You don't need
like basic rendering.
Yeah, that's pretty basic.
The funny thing, and maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but the thing that made me laugh though is I'm just like, so we're at this point where it's like your game world is so fucking gigantic that you have to come up with algorithms for rendering pieces of it at a time. And it's just like, is your game world really that interesting that it needs to be that big and need that much, AI programming going on just to render the thing? It's like, I gave the example in the car yesterday. I think I was talking to Angie and Zach or somebody about Ocarina of Time and how like that game world is like so tiny compared to anything that you see now. But, like, it's an approximation, right, of, like, a giant environment. And you understand as the player, as you go from, Kokiri Forest to the gates of Hyrule Castle Town, that did you actually spend 24 hours walking? No, but the game has the time pass so that it goes from morning to the sun is setting. So you're like, I get the sense that it took me a long time. And I can remember every location in Ocarina of Time. Like, every little environment is in my head because it's big, but not so redonkulously big that you just forget chunks of it. And if you compare it to, like, Twilight Princess, I can remember certain areas in that game, and they're really impressive and beautiful, like the mines for the Gorons. But if you ask me to name the spots in between, so much of it is just empty bullshit. And it's like, why is it even there? Like, what is that? What do I get from traversing through this stark, barren landscape? I don't even know. But they're obsessed with giving you more of it.
I'm gonna be pro big right now. I don't know who coined this phrase, but there's a phrase, something like expression like quantity has a quality all its own. Mm-hmm. Like the experience of going through a large space is qualitatively different than going through a small space. Mm-hmm. There's like, as a human, you get exhausted, you get overwhelmed, you just kind of have this cascade of things washing past you. This can give a game a certain vibe that it wouldn't have if it were smaller. Even though you can play something like Ocarina of Time and understand what it's supposed to represent, it's still different. And I've had experiences in open world games, Final Fantasy 15 notably, where like all the time you spend driving, like you're just waiting for the car to get somewhere. You don't even drive the car. Ignis drives the car. You're just in the back of the car, right? And just like panning the camera, looking at things, mm-hmm. and the characters are talking. And there's a way to look at that, which is just like, why are you wasting my time with this? Just get me to my destination so I can go kill monsters and explore things, right? But the time it takes to do that, to get through this expanse of not that interesting terrain, still provides something that a more condensed experience does not. And I'm not saying it's not possible for a game to get too big, and I'm not saying it's not unreasonable to keep pouring money into this in order to make things bigger and bigger. But there is something that large open worlds can provide, which is very cool, that you don't get from an experience like Ocarina of Time.
That's true. I'm gonna put words in your mouth.
Please.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but like so for you, I know you take a game like Elden Ring, right? Mm-hmm. And then you take like either the original Dark Souls or I guess Lies of P, Lords of the Fallen. all of them are pretty big worlds. Nothing compared to Elden Ring, but you would much prefer like the Dark Souls experience with like, oh, I made my way all the way back to this, and now there's a shortcut. But you still feel like it's a big world, But compared to Elden Ring, it's actually a fat ass map.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
There's something you gain from a condensed world that you don't get from a big open world, and vice versa. I feel like the kind of game that Elden Ring is, I do prefer a more condensed world that is still large enough to give you a sensation of like looping around and discovery, right?
Well, I'll contradict myself just a bit too, because I just said I enjoyed the sailing in Wind Waker, and that is just purely open space with minimal things to do in between, which sounds kind of like Final Fantasy 15. So it's probably more about how it's handled, but I don't think everyone handles it the best. Depends on the game, right?
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Well, on the opposite side of giving you more, the last thing I want to talk about is the subject of games preservation, which came up a lot at GDC this year. And honestly, I kind of wonder if it was in response to what's going on with the industry and with just one after the other disappointing AAA releases and people increasingly going back to playing older games. You see it in, for example, the Steam what's going on Steam, like most played games of the week or whatever, and it's constantly these older games. So I kind of wonder if GDC is finally, paying attention to that and acknowledging how important games preservation is.
What do you mean the industry? You said
Pardon?
GDC.
I'm talking about GDC. I'm saying that at this year's GDC, there were a bunch of talks about preservation compared to last year, and that I think GDC is responding to that. And to this increase in desire for preservation and looking to the past by having more talks this year on preservation. I went to some of them. The one that really I thought was interesting was the Sony one. There are 3 people at Sony right now who work in games preservation. 2 of them were at this talk. It was given by, I think his name was Garrett Friedley. He was talking more on the technical side for the most part, which I won't dive into because I won't pretend to know what he was talking about exactly, but he was just talking about the all the technicalities behind the technologies they're using, who has access to what data, etc. It was interesting, though, because he was saying only his team and a couple of other like IT people at Sony have access to all of their games, all of their data, everything they've ever made. That was pretty shocking. I mean, it makes sense from a security standpoint, but it was shocking thinking that only maybe 5 to 10 people, his team of 3 and whatever other IT people have access to everything. Not even like C-suite executives can get access to this data. So it was fascinating because he's extremely passionate about this. And when it came time for questions, I actually stood up and asked him, what game have you personally, do you personally want to make sure gets preserved that you guys haven't gotten to preserve yet? And he said the question stumped him. He said he actually wasn't sure. He said if he had to come up with an answer on the fly, he knows for sure that he wants to save everything early that Naughty Dog did. He thinks it's really important to save their earlier works. And it was funny because he had showed some screenshots of like an internal Slack channel that they have where they'll let people know like company wide what they're doing. And he said like they'll have town hall meetings or whatever. And during the town hall, he'll just kind of make time for them to say, hey, here's what we've been working on. Because he feels like nobody really knows that this is happening at Sony. And it just kind of underscores why it's important for games preservation to have more airtime. So after I asked this question, at the end, the very last question was from someone. It wasn't even a question, it was a statement. Somebody at Naughty Dog was there. And he said, I didn't know that you guys existed. I didn't know that you were doing this. And now I'm going to go back to the higher ups at Naughty Dog and tell them about you guys and how important it is that we work with you. And there was a journalist there from The Independent. And she stood up before me and asked a question and was just basically asking Garrett, why do you think that all of a sudden this year at GDC we're seeing all these talks about game preservation? And I mean, is it because people are now understanding? She goes, is it because people think that this is important? Do they think it's important to preserve games? Why why are there all these talks? And his long and short of his answer was yes, like absolutely they're understanding why it's so important. And I'm glad that they have all these talks now, because it's a topic that not a lot of people in the industry still really concerned about, or are concerned about, because the suits don't see money in it. It's much harder to monetize preserving old games or getting people to buy old games than it is having someone spend $100 on GTA 6.
Unless you're Nintendo.
Unless you're Nintendo.
Well, that's the thing, because when Angie and I talked about it after she had gone to the talk, I said, well, it's becoming a priority because now, don't quote me because I can't remember, but I think Nintendo is among the first to say, let's go Netflix with our old games. Let's stop selling them.
So that's...
Because when Switch Online came out, now you have access to all these NES, SNES games, but you don't get to buy them. You're just renting them.
So this is different than preservation as it was in this talk wasn't talking about making games available to the public, right? This is like more about how a bunch of old like silent film classics from Hollywood just don't exist anymore. You literally cannot watch them no matter who you are or what you have access to.
That was burned.
Literal lost media.
Yeah, actual lost media.
Well, this goes hand in hand though, because what's happening, and again, this is what Angie and I talked about, it's this idea of like, if you look at games, they deteriorate, and then you have some instances where like it's shocking when you'll hear a dev say, I'm making this up, this isn't true, but like you might have Romero come out and say, we actually have no idea where the original code for Doom is. Like it's just gone. And so what happens is if you're not preserving, when you realize now you're the game studios, right? You're like, oh shoot, if we're PlayStation, now they're doing what Nintendo does. If you have PlayStation Super Plus or whatever, now you have access to all these older games, including some PS1 games that are in there. So it's like, if you're not preserving, if you're not maintaining all this stuff, now you can't monetize it later. And as time is going by, like Nintendo, they've been smart enough that they keep re-releasing it over and over for years now. So they've just perpetually had it. But like if you're Sony, you don't have to go as far back. So it's like, okay, we're about 30 years in for ourselves or whatever it is. And so if we get on it now, we're preserving this stuff now, we can monetize it. Because they've been hearing calls for this for years now. When PS3 was backwards compatible with PS2, everybody loved that. But then you get to PS4, and it's like, oh, no more backwards compatibility. Everyone was pissed. And so they try to meet people, quote unquote, halfway. And it's like, oh, well, you can stream PS3 games now. And people are just like, eh.
So you're still talking mostly about like the consumer side of things, right?
No,
like what this guy was talking about with
Let me address what you're saying. So Garrett is somewhere in the middle between what both of you are saying. Garrett absolutely wants to preserve the data. And it wasn't just the data. He said, I want to preserve everything. Because even if someone like... He didn't say this exactly, but he gave a similar example. But like, even if someone had written, like someone had a concept artist had sketched something on a cocktail napkin and they took a photo of it, I want that.
Yep.
So he wants like all of that information and all of that data and all of that content to preserve it for posterity. And
he wants it to be possible for there to be like a PlayStation museum that can go through like all of this stuff.
Theoretically, sure. But he wants gaming history. However, he did talk about, like I just said, the monetization aspect, which is, the suits don't think it's important because they can't make money off of it. But and I don't think this is painting with too broad of a brush here, the game preservation community is ultimately concerned about still being able to play these games. Because as your consoles, look at the Wii U isn't even that old. And the Wii U has this catastrophic defect, basically, that if you don't turn it on for too long, it won't play your games anymore.
Did you both see the news about speedrun records on Super Nintendo becoming complicated because it turns out some Super Nintendos, like their sound chip is slowly speeding up over time.
Oh no.
And that actually affects like the processing. It like for the average user, it's not going to matter at all, but it could like mean like conceivably speedruns could be some number of milliseconds faster than they used to be.
Yeah, well see, this is the issue, or Robert's had issues with Game Boy cartridges that no longer save, and on and on. So Garrett, I think, shares that same concern from the monetization and consumer perspective of we would still want to be able to play these games.
It does seem to me like these are like the consumer access side of things, which is like a money-making opportunity, and the strictly like preservation, like historical preservation side of things, they're separate. There's a goal to try and marry those in order to make preservation more palatable to the people in question.
Yeah.
But they're still not quite the same goal.
No,
Well,
they're not.
I mean, you can't accomplish without the preservation. So, like, if you're, I think it was the Video Game History Foundation or something like that. It's like an Emeryville-based group.
It's the Video Games History Foundation.
The Video Games History Foundation. So those guys had an entire collection on display of NES games that were basically made and then never released in one form or another. And so they're sitting there cataloging all of this. They had some of it playable on the show floor. But that's one thing right there. And that's been going on for years now, right? They're not the only ones. There's other people that do this. But the new part of it, and the reason you're hearing it at GDC, is because the bigger companies are looking at people like Nintendo, people like Sony, and even looking at, the content creators in film and television and saying, they have all this old shit. They keep it sustained. You can play it. You can either watch it and it looks fine. You upscale it into HD. If it's a game, it still runs. If we support these efforts, all that means is that a game we spent, $100 million on 20 years ago can again give us money. Because now if we start preserving and then we hand that off to somebody like a Digital Eclipse, for example, and say, hey, get this to run on PS6. Digital Eclipse will say, sure. And since we have these nice preserved files and you create this pipeline, it's a moneymaker. And that's where the attention's coming from. Because it's not just from suddenly, the brass at Sony was like, it's so important that we maintain this. The PlayStation, the SNES PlayStation hybrid that exists, they found a second one recently. It was in like the former PlayStation president's closet, just sitting there. Nobody even knew it existed. And that's how important it is that it's just sitting on a shelf in his closet. It's like, people aren't thinking about these things, but as soon as they start telling you it's money sitting, then it becomes a priority. Because if somebody at Sony was like, hey, we could start a museum, and then they look at that guy and say, by the way, that PlayStation that's in your closet, that could be like a marquee attraction at the museum. We need to make sure it's encased in bulletproof glass, not just sitting in your closet waiting for a house fire. Like, that's the impetus for all of this.
Well, it's funny because the Video Games History Foundation's, what they had on display, it was called Lost Levels, Unreleased Games for the Nintendo Entertainment System. And again, like, they're not really going to be able to do that with Sony, not yet anyway, because they're the ones who have always had all of this data. And even though they could do a heck of a better job at supporting games preservationists, they have to some extent supported games preservation. So that was funny that of all of the companies, it was Nintendo that this one was focused on. And the 4 playable ones were Super Sushi Pinball, Pyramids of Ra 2, California Raisins, The Grape Escape, and Buzz and Wall Dog. They were all canceled. Like, the California Raisins game was actually, it was ready to go. Like, they were going to ship that game, and then Capcom told Capcom USA, we're squashing it, it's over, it's not happening. And like, for various reasons, these games never saw the light of day. But these are games going back to the 80s. Whereas the oldest data that Sony has in their databases right now is from 1994. And it's Arc the Lad. So Garrett was saying how, like, they still have a long way to go in terms of getting more of their data. They're working to, he said something along the lines of, like, working to upgrade their software to be able to archive more of these games, because I guess there's some limitations right now, reasons why they can't currently. But they're still, like, they're trying, but 1994 is it's nowhere near as old as what Nintendo has saved in their archives. So yeah, I mean, it was very interesting though, seeing this year. I went to another games preservation talk. I'll be very frank, I was very bored by it, and I wasn't expecting to be. It was capturing game history bit by bit. It was Limited Run Games, Digital Foundry, Digital Eclipse, and RetroTink. It kind of felt more like they were just kind of hawking their wares a bit, frankly. And I guess you're actually not supposed to do that at GDC, and they were like making fun of themselves for it, but it felt like they kind of didn't really care. But they did talk about like RetroTink has some, and again, I'm not going to pretend to really understand. This was an extremely technical talk, but they have some sort of like, I think it's like an emulation device, because they talked about emulation a lot in this talk, which again is another form of preservation. But they were talking about how emulation has come a long way. They were talking about game capture in particular, and how capturing game footage has come a long way as well. How initially it was like you'd see news clips on your local news station of like arcades, and you'd see the weird like fuzzy footage of like arcade cabinets, and how that has its own sort of importance compared to like the super crystal clear screenshots and gameplay footage that we get now. Because again, it's all just like video games history. But they were talking about how emulation has come a long way, and how the difficulties of like CRTVs, and how certain games were meant to be played on CRTVs, and if you don't have them anymore, how that's a problem. And it was I wish that talk was a little better, but they did touch on some really interesting stuff just surrounding early ways that developers would capture screenshots for magazines like Nintendo Power or Edge or whatever else. But again, just like how this is, it's a bit of a cottage industry that they're hoping just really gains more traction, because it's so important for preserving these older games. And especially as the industry reaches a kind of a crossroads where it's like, where do we go from here? Are we going to continue down this path that we saw in 2024 of games that are not resonating and studio closures and layoffs? Or do we right the ship here and look to our past and look to what gamers have been asking for, they've been saying they want more of, and the games that they love, and they continue to play over these new games and return to year after year? And if it's the latter, and they take the latter path, they're going to need games preservation to look to those older games, play them, get the feel for them, and on and on and on. So
none of that even touches on the problem of how do you preserve an online experience once the audience moves on.
Yeah.
But
or the servers get shut down. You can't play it anymore.
So you guys thinking about maybe going to GDC next year too?
Oh, yeah.
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 Yeah. I'd be interested to see what it's like there, because there were a lot of things tonally that were different this year. The content of the talks was very different this year. The overall vibe. So I'm curious to see what it'll be like next year.
Cool. Any last things before we close up?
No, I think that was it for me.
But the next time we meet, which will be who knows how many months, but I will go hands-on with Switch 2. So maybe we can try to time it so I can tell our lovely audience what it was like to experience the new Switch.
Just 2 straight hours of unbearable gushing from Robert.
I'll have criticisms. Looks like it's a little big.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Hey, Zach likes big.
I am
He's
pro big.
Pro big.
The $400 price tag it's probably going to have isn't something I'll be pleased with.
Give me the biggest you got. All right. Well, that has been 7 minutes. Season 5, Episode 1. See you next time.
Yay.